My elder sister always claimed we were destined to be the chosen ones, destined to stand above all others. She sabotaged my betrothal, forcing me to grow old with her as an unmarried woman. Only after we both married the prince did I learn the truth. My sister kept me alive merely as her stand-in, to shield her from harm. The prince, unwilling to hurt his savior, took his anger out on me instead, every open attack and hidden dagger I bore alone. Only after the prince ascended the throne and my elder sister became empress did they dispose of me, deemed useless. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the moment my elder sister sought to ruin my marriage. "Who do you think you are, daring to covet my sister?" A sharp, indignant cry jolted me awake from an endless nightmare. Yi-Rong, her face flushed with fury, was berating a man. "My sister may be a concubine's daughter, but she's still far above a penniless scholar like you. What good is your Jinshi degree if you can't even afford to support her?" The man's face flushed crimson. He tried to leave but was blocked by Yi-Rongyu's servants. Trapped in the circle, he could only endure Yi-Rongyu's scorn. The man being berated was my nominal fiancé, Sherming. "Second Miss Yi, I never imagined you to be this kind of person. Only yesterday I told you of my family's poverty, and today you bring the eldest miss here. Are you afraid you can't back out of this marriage?" Scholars have thin skin. Unable to bear the rebuke, Sherming disregarded gentlemanly decorum and rushed straight to me, his face etched with disappointment. In my past life, Yi-Rongyu had intercepted Sherming, then merely a poor, penniless Jinshi candidate, on the street under the guise of kindness. Yi-Rongyu publicly humiliated Sherming on the broad avenue, reducing him to nothing. Ironically, Sherming had just confessed his family's poverty to me moments before Yi-Rongyu forced him to break off the engagement. After this ordeal, Sherming believed I had deliberately humiliated him. In a fit of rage, he promptly ended the engagement. I tried to explain, but Yi-Rongyu's men blocked my words, leaving me speechless. Yi-Rongyu even mocked Sherming for being flexible and knowing his place. Yet no one could have predicted Sherming would later become a powerful minister. People often follow the powerful and abandon the weak. Sherming's few words were enough to brand me as someone who tramples the lowly to climb higher, a traitor to my word. After becoming the secondary consort in the prince's mansion, the prince openly favored me over his wife, cementing this slanderous reputation upon me. I was even accused by censors of being vain and greedy for status. Those officials looked down on me. Even after death, I was still the subject of whispered gossip. This time around, I certainly won't let her slander me again. As the maids moved to lead me away, I stepped forward abruptly, as if startled, placing myself squarely before everyone. I did not. As a commoner's daughter, being betrothed to a Jinshi is already an immense honor. How could I possibly look down on him? Sherming, I still remember your vow from yesterday. But have you forgotten mine? How can you doubt me so today? Tears welled up in my eyes, poised to fall, instantly dousing Sherming's fury. He too recalled yesterday's vow and ceased his relentless questioning. "Second miss, I misunderstood you. My apologies." Sherming, after all a Jinshi, swiftly grasped the situation. His face no longer flushed, he turned to glare coldly at Yi-Rongyu. I never imagined the legitimate daughter of the esteemed chancellor's household would stoop to slandering her younger sister to sabotage her marriage. What a clever tactic indeed. Seeing Sherming about to retort, Yi-Rongyu immediately had him gagged and dragged away. She then dragged me into a carriage and took me back to the mansion. "Look at that mouth of his, does that sound like a scholar? Not a trace of refinement. I saw through him long ago and tried to help you escape this match, yet you showed no gratitude. What a waste of my efforts. Sister, I was foolish." I lowered my eyes obediently, offering no rebuttal. Yi-Rongyu's expression darkened, yet my innocent gaze softened her suspicion. Having learned from my past life, I naturally had no desire to marry Sherming. But I couldn't let Yi-Rongyu ruin my reputation either. Besides, though I'd thwarted her scheme today, she wouldn't abandon her plan to sever my betrothal. Inside the carriage, Yi-Rongyu sighed deeply. "Liang-chan, have you forgotten? Your elder sister told you long ago, we sisters are heaven's chosen daughters, destined for boundless honors. What does a mere Jinshi scholar mean? Today's opportunity is lost, but I'll devise another plan. You absolutely cannot marry him. I gritted my teeth, swallowing my hatred. The root of my tragic death in my past life, how could I forget? Heaven's chosen daughters. This was the notion Yi Rongyu had drilled into my head since childhood, urging me to join her in rejecting complacency. But Yi Rongyu was the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's household, while I was merely a bastard born from my mother's illicit affair, a mere shadow among the concubine's offspring. Thus, I never welcomed her closeness nor believed her nonsense. Yet Yi Rongyu was determined to sabotage my marriage. When Ming came to call off the engagement, father flew into a rage. But he wouldn't blame Yi Rongyu, only me. Mother stood by, bluntly declaring, her ambitions soar higher than the heavens, yet her fate is thinner than paper. Like mother, like daughter. To preserve the family's reputation, father took Ming as a student and arranged another gentle concubine's daughter for him. I was locked in the ancestral hall for 3 days of reflection. The shrine was eerily quiet and cold. I thought death might be preferable. Though I wouldn't have a memorial tablet and would likely be hastily buried in a flimsy coffin, it would be better than continuing this hopeless existence. But even death was denied me by Yi Rongyu. On the 3rd day of my hunger strike, she stormed into the shrine and forced food into my mouth. If you die, I'll toss your corpse into a ghost marriage, then feed it to beggars. Those starving won't be picky about their meat. After that day, I survived. Liang-chan, why didn't you tell your elder sister you were ill? I personally simmered this medicine. Here, take a sip. You absolutely must stay well so you can enjoy your future blessings. Yi Rongyu's concerned expression made me wonder if the terrifying face I glimpsed in the shrine during my dizziness had been a mere illusion. Yi Rongyu was exceedingly attentive toward me, ever fearful I might hurt or suffer. Even the mistress scolded her, accusing her of being bewitched by me. Mother, Liang-chan shares my father and grew up alongside me. Naturally, she is my closest sister. She remained stubbornly self-willed. Father and the mistress couldn't beat or scold her, so they simply gave up, too weary to bother anymore. To escape her, I privately sought out the mistress, begging her to find me a husband, any husband, so her beloved daughter could return to normal. The mistress wavered, but Yi Rongyu blocked it with a hunger strike. No! I must decide Liang-chan's marriage. Father and mistress were afraid of her, so they yielded to her will. Seasons passed, year after year. Most of the secondary daughters in the mansion were married off, leaving only me to accompany Yi Rongyu until we both reached our 20s. That year, Prince Qi, Lu Mingxiu, was transferred from his fiefdom to the capital. Such a young and talented man drew the attention of noble ladies throughout the capital like moths to a flame. Even my father was moved. Father, there's no need to rush. Good news will come. Yi Rongyu mysteriously persuaded father. While we were all baffled, she took me out to the streets and inexplicably rescued a little beggar child. The next day, an imperial edict arrived at the Prime Minister's residence. The emperor bestowed a marriage upon Yi Rongyu, making her the princess consort of Qi. As for me, I became the secondary consort of the Prince of Qi. The position of secondary consort in the princely household truly catapulted me to new heights. Father even elevated mother to a secondary consort, raising her status so she'd never suffer humiliation again. At first, I felt immense gratitude toward Yi Rongyu, ashamed of my years of resentment. I specifically knelt at the temple to pray for her wedding talisman. But my joy proved premature. Soon, rumors spread throughout the capital. Prince Qi favored his concubine while neglecting his wife. In those rumors, I became the ungrateful vixen who used Yi Rongyu to climb the social ladder, then bullied her under the prince's favor. Ming, now the chancellor's chief clerk, actively fueled these tales, once again spreading the narrative of my treacherous behavior. I rushed to Yi Rongyu to clear my name, but her words struck me like a thunderbolt. Yi Liang-chan, do you think all these years I protected you for nothing? You, just enjoy the benefits you've gained. Contempt flickered in her eyes as she waved for guards to drag me out. After that day, everything changed. Wherever Prince Qi attended a banquet, I was inevitably by his side. Even at imperial family gatherings, he would defy the emperor to insist on bringing me along. If anyone dared utter a single word of criticism against me, Prince Qi would overturn their table on the spot, regardless of gender. His actions directly confirmed the rumors. Such high-profile displays only invited open hostility and hidden daggers. Poisonings, assassination attempts, kidnappings. All directed at me. Meanwhile, the man's true love, my elder sister Yi-Rong-yu, remained safely in the mansion, sharing his affection. My suffering came not only from the prince's political enemies, but from the prince himself. No one knew he harbored a deeply twisted obsession. Having risen from the bloodshed of battlefields, he found no outlet for his aggression in the capital's peace. His fury could only be unleashed in the bedroom. Whenever the Prince of Qi desired, I was delivered to his bedchamber, tortured until not a single inch of my skin remained untouched. Even if I had to attend a banquet the next day, he showed no restraint, continuing his brutal torment. The marks of his passion on my body were impossible to conceal beneath my clothes. As those men's leering gazes roamed over me, Prince Qi would sit motionless, as if blind, leaving me to endure their scorn. I had thought Yi-Rong-yu would suffer the same fate as me, yet she received only endless tenderness. Rong-Rong, does it hurt? Mingxiu, it doesn't hurt. Only after Prince Qi left did Yi-Rong-yu pull me out from under the bed. You still want to come and stir things up between us? Save it, Yi Liang-chan. Seeing how pitiful you look, I'll be generous and tell you, I'm the prince's savior, the one he cherishes most. He wouldn't dream of hurting me, so he takes his frustration out on you instead. Truth be told, I should thank you. I was bound hand and foot, unable to move. The passionate lovemaking between the man and woman on the bed, the tender comfort between lovers, felt like axes and knives to me, splitting me into pieces. So this was the real reason I could become a secondary consort. From start to finish, I was merely a substitute. I tried to escape. The closest I ever came to freedom was when I reached the city gates, only to be betrayed by my own maid. My fate was to be tortured by Prince Qi before the entire household. After that, outside the mansion I was the glamorous secondary consort, while inside I was a lowly concubine, stripped of all dignity, subjected to Prince Qi's cruelty. This existence, little more than a living corpse, only ended when Prince Qi ascended the throne as emperor. Years of venting his frustrations finally tempered his nature. And with me no longer useful, I deserved to die. Yi Liang-chan, you've enjoyed your blessings long enough. Without me, you'd never have touched a man as exceptional as His Majesty. Now that I'm Empress, it's time for you to die. She had me sent to the guard barracks, where I was tortured to death. To the outside world, she claimed I had violated wifely duty and committed adultery, saddling me with yet another layer of infamy. Even in death, I found no peace. Just as she had declared in the ancestral hall years ago, my corpse was fed to beggars, earning her a reputation for caring for the common folk. I became a vengeful spirit, seeking retribution, only to be shattered by the very amulet I had once begged for. That soul-piercing agony jolted me awake from my dream. Gazing at my intact body, I exhaled heavily. Walking to the table, the sharp sting of cold tea in winter instantly clears my mind. I am still alive. There is still time to plan everything. Just as I suspected, Yi-Rong-yu has indeed called off my marriage. This time, to smooth over the mess his daughter created, father, just as in my past life, took Sherming as his student. The difference is, Sherming politely declined father's suggestion to replace him. That youngster says with you in the household, he dares not marry again, fearing another broken engagement. I've lost all face for your sake, and you still cause trouble. Father immediately reprimanded Yi-Rong-yu. Yet Yi-Rong-yu showed no remorse, excitedly confirming the annulment with father once more. This enraged father, who bluntly ordered the matriarch to discipline her properly. Liang-chan, that penniless scholar at least has some self-awareness. Becoming father's disciple is already a huge favor to him. I glanced at Sherming, who had entered behind Yi-Rong-yu, and quickly interjected, Mr. Sure, I apologize. My eldest sister isn't. Second miss, no need for apologies. It's simply that fate has not brought us together. But I, sure, will never forget the fundamental reason. Sherming, though rejected, didn't jump up and down like before. Instead, he approached us with a calm expression. After I reminded him, Yi-Rong-yu condescendingly turned his head, showing no awkwardness about having spoken ill behind someone's back. Isn't that so? This young lady didn't say anything wrong. Aren't you a penniless scholar? Sis! I stamped my foot impatiently beside her, though inwardly I found it amusing. Yi Rongyu hadn't experienced Sherming's silver tongue. He could spin black into white, and he held grudges. Sherming nodded. Naturally, Miss Yi is correct. I am indeed impoverished now, but the world is unpredictable. Who can say what the future holds? Ignoring Yi Rongyu, he turned to me with a smile, clasping his fists and bowing. Second young miss, it seems fate has not brought us together. May you find a worthy match and all your endeavors prosper. With that, Sherming strode away. Need he say it? We sisters are women destined by heaven. Of course we'll find worthy matches. Yi Rongyu was still scowling at Sherming, but I caught the look he shot her before leaving, the same bitter gaze he'd fixed on me in my past life. Yes, sister is right. I murmured in agreement. Liang Chan, you finally understand me. I'm so glad. We won't go to class today. Let's pick out some jewelry and new clothes to celebrate properly. Yi Rongyu, thrilled to receive a response for the first time, pulled me along as we walked forward. But I didn't miss the contempt in her eyes. A concubine's daughter is just that, unfit for public view. A few kind words and some clothes, and she's fooled. What a narrow-minded frog in the well. That night, I personally prepared a beauty-enhancing soup as a token of gratitude for Yi Rongyu. By chance, I overheard her muttering to herself. The room was deathly quiet. The maidservants in her quarters dared not make light of the situation, terrified they might face another beating. Ah! Clumsy fool! If a single strand of this lady's hair is lost, you won't live to see tomorrow. Even removing a hairpin proves you're this incompetent. Someone, restrain her hands. The maids all knelt begging for mercy, and I appeared at just the right moment. Sister, don't fret over such trifles. Your anger is striking, but harming yourself over a maid is unwise. I've prepared a beauty-enhancing broth, taste it. I stepped forward, halting Yi Rongyu's hand and taking the hairpin. This hairpin is exquisite. If it gets stained with blood, it would be such a waste. You might not care, but I do. Since you cherish me, just give it to me as a gift. I put on a greedy, eager expression while inventing every excuse I could, pleasing Yi Rongyu. Humph. For your sake, I'll spare this worthless servant. After downing the calming broth, she handed me the brocade box as if feeding porridge to a beggar. What use is a single hairpin? Take all these ornaments. Greed flashed in my eyes as I thanked her excitedly. A flicker of contempt crossed Yi Rongyu's gaze, swiftly suppressed. A pang of regret crossed her face, as if recalling something. I failed to care for you properly, leaving you without even decent jewelry. Not at all, eldest sister. You've been so kind to me. I have nothing of value to offer, but I'll make you beauty-enhancing soup every day. Liang Chan is the kindest to her elder sister. She waved her hand, and I obediently followed the maid out. Only after returning to my room did I casually toss the brocade box aside. The initial objective was achieved. Miss, we know we were wrong. Let's tend to your hand first, it's bleeding. Earlier, beneath the horse's hooves, I had rescued a lone infant, my arm scraped raw by coarse stones in the process. But I paid it no mind, simply rolling up my sleeve to cover the wound. How could you parents be so careless? Leaving a child in the middle of the road? Today I happened to be there, but what about next time? The young couple stood there, faces flushed with shame. Holding their child, they remained silent under my scolding, while the little one in their arms whimpered softly. We won't dare again. My heart softened with a sigh. I pulled a piece of malt sugar from my bosom and offered it to the little one. A good child knows how to correct their mistakes. There you go. I reached out, gently flicked his forehead, declined the young couple's invitation, picked up the pastry from the ground, and turned to leave. No sooner had I stepped out of the alley than a young man who looked like a wealthy gentleman blocked my path. He feigned nonchalance, yet his eyes betrayed his amusement. Miss, doesn't your bleeding hand hurt? His gaze lingered on the torn sleeve of my robe. I clutched it tightly and glared back, only to earn a soft chuckle. Seeing we were alone in the alley, I sensed something was amiss and spoke coolly. Thank you for your concern, young master, but men and women should not touch each other. Please behave yourself. Seeing me pressed against the wall, guarded and unyielding, he stepped aside, clearing the path. Very well. I was too forward with the beauty. At that, I quickened my pace to the intersection. Only after confirming I could escape did I call back to him from the crossroads. Sir, though you pretend to be a playboy, your gait and the calluses on your hands show you're no wealthy son obsessed with women. Stop acting so frivolous. I don't know why you approached me, but pity me, I'm merely a concubine's daughter. There's nothing here for you to covet. With that, I took off running, terrified he might chase after me. Young lady. We'll meet again. Next time, you won't escape. I ignored the man's words behind me, running headlong until I drew a burst of hearty laughter. Only after sprinting through 2 alleys and confirming no one followed did I slow my pace. Unexpectedly, today went so smoothly. Successfully caught the Chi Prince's attention. Those two were Chi Prince Lu Mingxiu and his personal guard. In my past life, it was also from Yi Rongyu that I learned why the Chi Prince married her upon returning to the capital. As a child, Yi Rongyu had saved the lost Lu Mingxiu from under a horse's hooves, saying words remarkably similar to mine just now. From that moment, the savior became his eternal muse, the apple of his eye. Later, Yi Rongyu reenacted the scene before Lu Mingxiu, who had secretly returned to the capital, and they successfully recognized each other. On the day the Prince of Qi announced his official return, he merely staged a love-at-first-sight performance for the public, all to build momentum for Yi Rongyu. Thanks to Yi Rongyu's boastful nature, I learned every detail. Lu Mingxiu's covert return coincided with this period. How could I not seize such a golden opportunity? My first move was to make Yi Rongyu utterly believe I was utterly lost in the beautiful future she had woven for me. I shed my usual aloofness, hovering around her daily with an attentiveness bordering on servility. Soon after, when I ventured out again, her people ceased following me. Upon returning home, Yi Rongyu scolded me for taking so long to buy pastries, not once mentioning the wound on my arm. A few days later, as I sat peacefully embroidering in the mansion, Father summoned me unexpectedly. An important guest has arrived, specifically requesting to see you. You'd best be cautious in your words and actions, and keep this quiet. I glanced at him and replied simply, Father, I am not my eldest sister. My father choked on his words, his face turning pale as he left. In the reception hall, a man was already waiting. Only when he heard my footsteps did he leisurely turn around. Young lady, he said, I told you we would meet again. That Lu Mingxiu found the Prime Minister's residence surprised me not at all. But he was, after all, a prince, his sensitivity to matters far surpassed that of ordinary men. Though he couldn't recall the name of his childhood savior, he wasn't so easily convinced that I was that long-lost figure. While he approached me openly, he likely sent spies long ago to gather intelligence. Following Father's instructions, I played along, pretending to accompany him out of necessity. Father, what about eldest sister? Mentioning Yi Rongyu gave Father a headache. Her excessive concern for me nearly made him suspect she harbored some peculiar inclination. As for this cherished daughter, pampered since childhood, Father couldn't bring himself to speak harshly, allowing her to run wild. After all, I was just a concubine's daughter, nothing special. I could only be manipulated like a puppet. I'll explain to Rongyu. Tell her you're coming to fulfill filial duties, to serve your father. She detests all the scholarly nonsense in the study and won't come. Just keep your mouth shut. With Father's blessing, I went along with it. But secrets never stay hidden forever. My frequent absences from the courtyard to venture outside the estate were eventually discovered. Liang Chan, has Father arranged another marriage for you? Lu Mingxiu had barely left my room when Yi Rongyu arrived. Her first move was to scan the entire room for any outsiders. I sat alone, watching her bustle about. Perhaps. Eldest sister, Father said I should entertain that young gentleman properly. Could he be the perfect match you mentioned? Father just took that young gentleman to the study to discuss matters. I feigned coyness, putting on an act of secret affection, which immediately annoyed Yi Rongyu. Impossible. I'll go find Father and make him call off your engagement. I followed the furious Yi Rongyu straight to Father's study. Disregarding propriety, she kicked open the tightly shut study door and shouted loudly. Father! Don't just shove some worthless scoundrel down Liang Chan's throat. I told you, Liang Chan's marriage is my decision. Chi! Chi! The moment Yi Rongyu, who had been seething with rage, saw the figure seated in the study, she was as if doused with a bucket of cold water. Her fiery temper instantly cooled. Chi? What might Miss Yi wish to say? Lu Xiuming's expression darkened, a hint of danger flickering in his eyes. Mr. Chi, I had mistakenly thought you were the Mr. Chi. I know. It was my mistake, and I apologize for the abruptness. Yi Rongyu's voice softened instantly, her hand still gesturing the character Chi in the air. Such a clumsy excuse, even I don't buy it. Lu Xiuming snorted derisively, his expression turning instantly cold. Setting aside Miss Ye's poor eyesight and inability to recognize people, let's just say that with your earlier remark, I'm not sure when I became a misshapen melon or a cracked gourd. Before Yi Rongyu could defend herself, Lu Mingxiu shifted the conversation to her father. The chancellor certainly knows how to raise his children. While an eldest sister may be like a mother, the chancellor's wife is still alive. The marriages of the other children should not fall under the eldest daughter's jurisdiction. Is Missy cursing her own mother to an early death? Accusing one's parents of such a grave sin was too heavy a burden for Yi Rongyu to bear, no matter how spoiled and unruly she might be. Young master, it's not like that. It's just that Liang Chan and I were born of the same mother, so I worry about her especially. Disobedient daughter. Shut your mouth and admit your mistake. Seeing Yi Rongyu's explanation grow increasingly absurd, her father's temples throbbed with fury. It matters not. Whether Miss Yi is willful and capricious or gentle and amiable, it concerns me not. Being misunderstood by Lu Mingxiu cut deeper than her father's scolding. Her tear-filled, pitiable expression stirred sympathy, yet none present shared it. Lu Mingxiu walked past Yi Rongyu expressionlessly and came to stand before me. The evening rain has not yet withered the palace trees, yet pity the idle leaves still clinging to the cool cicadas. Second miss, now that I know your name, it's time to fulfill our promise. Shall we take a boat ride together? Indeed, I had made a pact with him. No coercion or enticement, only after he knew my name would I accept his invitation. This way, I could reduce my outings, lessen the risk of Yi Rongyu discovering me, and pique his interest. No, my eldest sister. Before I could refuse, a finger pressed against my lips. The others are not within my consideration. My face flushed as I glanced at father, who readily agreed on my behalf. The only dissenting voice, Yi Rongyu, was tightly gagged by a maid, immobilized. She could only shoot me a look of seething resentment. I feigned trembling fear, earning Lu Mingxiu a chilling glance toward Yi Rongyu. Unrelated parties should refrain from meddling. As Lu Mingxiu pulled me away, I could still feel Yi Rongyu's murderous glare on my back. Yet the more she reacted, the more exhilarated I felt. Once aboard the pleasure boat, Lu Mingxiu sat leisurely across from me, his gaze roaming boldly over my entire body. Amused? Meeting his knowing stare, I feigned distraction and countered. What did you just ask, young master? Ignoring my response, Lu Mingxiu fixed his eyes on me and pressed further. Speak. Why did you deliberately stage that scene on the main street that day, risking injury to portray yourself as this prince's savior? I'm not sure what you're referring to, Your Highness. In the ensuing silence, I let out a soft chuckle and passed the tea on the table to him. Faced with my denial, Lu Mingxiu didn't press the issue but shifted the topic. Earlier, when I revealed something, Miss Liang Chan, you didn't seem surprised at all? Only then did I raise an eyebrow dismissively. Your Highness spoke at such length earlier that this humble maiden remains immersed in the sorrow of being misunderstood. I hope Your Highness will not hold it against me. Though I offered an apology, my expression betrayed not a trace of worry. The mist surrounding Liang Chan grows ever thicker. This prince finds himself increasingly curious. Lu Mingxiu didn't seem to mind, snorting with a laugh as he let the matter drop for now. Seeing Lu Mingxiu drop the matter, I finally relaxed the fist clenched beneath the table. Rescuing someone on the main street did indeed risk revealing flaws. A determined investigator could uncover clues, but that was the extent of it. Who could possibly suspect I was someone reborn? This risky gambit had paid off. Even if exposed later, he'd only have himself to blame for misjudging me. After all, I never claimed the title of his supposed savior. After that lake outing, Lu Mingxiu's interest in me visibly intensified. He invited me out repeatedly. Today it was a tea house, tomorrow a theater, the day after a spring outing, and the day after that, a polo match. Reasons kept piling up, as if he wouldn't rest until he'd exhausted every pleasure in the capital. Father welcomed this turn of events, while Yi Rongyu seethed with jealousy, yet dared not confront me. Thus, I too found it convenient, seeing no reason to refuse. Still, appearances must be maintained. If I'm not mistaken, Your Highness entered the capital secretly. Our imperial laws deem a feudal prince's unauthorized entry a grave offense. Should I report it, would Your Highness fear the consequences? Despite such impertinence, he showed no anger. Then go ahead. I'd be curious to see if His Majesty would punish me. Of course not. Lu Mingxiu's return to the capital was by the Emperor's own command. During his time here, he publicly took me sightseeing and enjoying the scenery, presenting himself to outsiders as a mere playboy. But in secret, he had already visited numerous high-ranking officials and dignitaries. Everyone in the capital who should know his true identity already does. I was merely a cover. But Lu Mingxiu was also a tool to me. We used each other, neither owed the other anything. If this prince were to be punished, Miss Liangchan would have to compensate me. Let me think. What would be a fitting recompense? How about you yourself? At these words, I immediately stepped back several paces, afraid of being tainted by any connection. This humble maiden dares not meet His Majesty. It was merely a jest. Your Highness, please do not take offense. How heartless, Liangchan. Lu Mingxiu frowned, his face etched with desolation. He possessed striking good looks, and when his eyes met yours, they held an intensity that could easily draw one in. Coupled with his high rank and immense power, it was no wonder Yi Rong had pined for him for over a decade. But despite his flawless act, I wouldn't forget his true nature. Violent, ruthless, merciless. Your Highness, our 3-hour meeting ends now. My eldest sister awaits me at the manor. I must return. I showed no lingering affection, leaving precisely on schedule. Behind me, Lu Mingxiu's probing gaze fell, burning intensely. I hadn't lied to him, Yi Rongyu truly awaited me at the estate. Lu Mingxiu's frequent invitations lately had made her intensely wary. Had father not intervened, she would have followed me everywhere or found ways to cause trouble. Today, with father summoned to the palace by the emperor, she seized her chance. Yi Rongyu couldn't leave the estate, but I still had to return home. Well, back already? You just annulled your engagement with that penniless scholar, and now you're out sightseeing with another man? After spending so much time together, aren't you afraid people will call you fickle? Yi Rongyu had been waiting in my room for ages, her first words dripping with sarcasm. Sister, you jest. Father insisted I spend 3 hours with young Master Qi. I didn't want to either. As I approached, I noticed the cabinets and bed were no longer as tidy as when I left, clearly rummaged through multiple times. Seeing my gaze fall behind her, Yi Rongyu curled her lips into a malicious smile. Ah, sister fears you might be bewitched, accepting tokens from other men. If others discovered this, it would tarnish your maiden reputation. Well then, thank you for your concern, elder sister. I didn't show anger, merely tidied everything back up in front of her. Oh, and Liangchan, your elder sister has received an invitation for tomorrow. It's time to bring certain matters to a conclusion and return to my proper place. Yi Rongyu left with these ambiguous words. I knew she had revealed her identity as my savior to Lu Mingxiu. But there's a difference between deliberate disclosure and casual mention. The next day, Yi Rongyu left in high spirits and returned home just as cheerfully. When she saw me, her previous hostility had vanished. From that day on, my life returned to normal. Lu Mingxiu never came looking for me again. I felt nothing particularly, but Yi Rongyu reverted to her old self, always looking at me with pity whenever we met. Rest assured, my elder sister said both you and I are heaven's chosen daughters. She would never deceive you. Everything returned to its original state. Soon, news of His Majesty summoning Prince Qi back to the capital sent shockwaves through the city. The main streets emptied as thousands gathered to watch the spectacle. Just like in my past life, Romeo took me out of the mansion and casually rescued a beggar to bring back home. That same day, the imperial decree granting the marriage also arrived at the Prime Minister's residence. Impossible. How could the Qi Prince's consort be Yi Liangchan? It should be me. Is Miss Yi questioning whether the servant falsified the imperial decree, or doubting His Majesty's judgment? The eunuch delivering the message shot Yi Rongyu a sinister sideways glance, causing her to shrink back in fear. Father produced a bulging money pouch and handed it to the eunuch, smiling as he saw him off. Father! It can't be. There must be a mistake. I am the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's household. The position of princess consort should be mine. Was it you? Yi Liangchan, you must have schemed this. You deceived the prince into marrying you by claiming to be the legitimate daughter, or you shamelessly allowed him to touch you to blackmail him. Yi Rongyu's accusations grew increasingly outrageous until her father, finally losing his temper, struck her across the face. Liangchan is already the officially appointed princess consort of Qi. The prince himself petitioned for this. From today onward, Liangchan will be registered under your mother's name as the legitimate second daughter of this household. If you cause any more trouble, I will petition His Majesty to revoke the imperial decree, and you won't even be the secondary consort of Prince Qi. Seeing her father truly enraged, Yi Rongyu panicked completely. She begged him not to, putting on a pitiful act. But today, her father seemed to have finally hardened his heart. He ordered her to be taken to the ancestral hall for confinement. She would only be released when she truly repented. Rongyu can't accept this all at once. Bear with her a little longer. After all, she's been proud since childhood, always striving to be first and refusing to fall behind. Today, she's already suffered the indignity of being demoted to secondary consort. I've made her reflect on her actions. For the sake of your reputations, there's no need to make a big fuss about this. Father was always like this. In his eyes, Yi Rongyu was his only true child, the other concubine-born daughters were merely tools for winning favor. Even now that I had become the Qi Prince's consort, his actions were merely to appease me and preserve Yi Rongyu's reputation. I had long grown accustomed to such differential treatment, my heart unmoved. I simply agreed. After my position as the Qi Prince's consort was sealed, my treatment within the mansion improved. The main wife had no choice but to hold her nose and put on a show of affection. Yi Rongyu initially threw a fit in the ancestral hall, only learning to play the good girl after father scolded her soundly. Yet the moment she was released, she came straight for me to cause trouble. Even during her second stint in the ancestral hall, she remained defiant. Only when the main wife personally intervened and had a private talk with her did she finally calm down. Only when father saw she truly wouldn't cause trouble again did he lift her confinement. After her release, she obediently came to apologize, bringing new clothes and jewelry, a display of sincere goodwill. Facing her insincere apology, I accepted it graciously. Perhaps even Yi Rongyu herself didn't realize the pity and contempt still lurking in her eyes as she apologized. Such affected posturing, no doubt the mistress had schemed with her. Still, to ensure a smooth marriage into the Qi Prince's household, they likely wouldn't cause trouble for now. I paid little heed to their plotting, instead heading to a secluded corner of the Xiang residence and pushing open a slightly dilapidated door. Through the door, I heard a muffled voice humming a nursery rhyme in broken notes. Others might not recognize it, but I knew exactly what it was. The sun sets, night falls bright, little one must sleep tight. 1. Cover with quilt. 2. Close your eyes. 3. Heed mother's words. Little one, sleep soundly, tomorrow you'll smile bright. Tears fell unexpectedly. In the courtyard, a woman cradled a bundle in her arms, patting it gently. Her hair was now half gray. After over a decade of backbreaking labor, she had lost the striking beauty she once possessed as a maid. As I drew nearer, I heard her replace little one in the lullaby with little cicada. Only when I knelt before her did the woman, who had been soothing the child with such calm, rise in a fluster and immediately kneel. Mistress, Chonner has fallen asleep. I'll return to my duties at once. She hid the bundle behind the table while bowing repeatedly. Her movements were practiced, as if repeated 1,000 times. I dodged her kneeling attempt, reaching to pull her up, but she evaded me. She grabbed the broom beside her and began busily sweeping the spotless floor. Mistress, I was wrong. It was my delusion. I was the one who climbed into Master's bed. I was the lowly one. It had nothing to do with Chonner. I crouched down and retrieved the cloth bundle from beneath the table, matching it with the rag doll inside. I had grown tall now. The small desk and chair could no longer conceal my figure. Yet I still remembered how, in my childhood years, Mother would place me under the table like this, watching her endure the mistress's torment and punishment. The mistress was convinced my mother had climbed into Father's bed, so she made everyone bully her. She even used my life as leverage, turning Mother into a tool for the servants of the Prime Minister's mansion to vent their frustrations. This hellish existence lasted a long time, until Yi Rongyu suddenly found me. The so-called heaven-chosen maiden briefly pulled me and Mother out of that hell. Father finally remembered he had a daughter in the inner courtyard. On the day he acknowledged me, Mother dressed herself beautifully that morning and joyfully saw me off. She said, "Ah Chan, after hardship comes reward. You'll live well from now on, marry a good husband, it will be fine." Though I was a legitimate concubine's daughter, getting my name recorded in the family registry proved difficult. Besides, I hadn't received any formal education back then. The mistress kept me elsewhere under the pretense of teaching etiquette. The tutor, following the mistress's orders, was extremely strict. The slightest mistake earned me a severe beating, but I endured it all. The maids who served Mother always mocked her, saying a daughter was useless, that the minister wouldn't acknowledge me, that I was just a bastard child. I wanted to study diligently, to show them I wasn't a bastard, that a daughter could bring honor to her mother. Months later, the mistress finally relented, saying my etiquette was barely passable. Overjoyed, I rushed back to Mother's quarters to tell her I had my own courtyard now. I wouldn't have to share the communal sleeping area with them anymore, nor endure those disgusting stares. But when I entered the room, Mother had become like this. No matter how I called out to her, she only clutched the cloth bundle in her arms, singing nursery rhymes. I tried to snatch it away, but the moment she saw the fine fabric on my clothes, she immediately knelt down. I couldn't bear it and ran away. After hiding for several days, I felt selfish and wanted to find a doctor to treat her. But no one in the mansion cared. When the mistress wanted to punish a maid, Father never stopped her. Yi Rongyu didn't care either. That maid crawled into bed with him, she has no shame. Mother letting her live is already a blessing. Stay away from her. When I refused, she threatened my mother's life. If I didn't distance myself, she'd make my mother die in disgrace before my eyes. I snuck to see Mother several times, only to find her being bullied by servants, forced to do all the dirty and exhausting chores. "If you don't do it, I'll report you to the mistress. Then your daughter will be cast out." Though Mother's mind was clouded, she still tried to protect me, forcing her weakened body to keep working. I couldn't bear it anymore. I charged forward and beat that person senseless. The commotion drew attention, and I was injured too. My bones nearly snapped, my face scarred. Yi Rongyu flew into a rage, striking down the one who hurt me with a cane. I was then forbidden from ever seeing Mother again. If anyone discovered us, she would carve out a piece of Mother's flesh. That day, to teach me a lesson, she drew a knife to cut into Mother's flesh. I knelt on the ground, clutching her legs, begging desperately. I had no choice but to endure, remembering Mother's words, to live well, to live with hope. If I stopped seeing Mother, she could live. I could only find excuses to glimpse her from afar among the servants, as long as she lived. Mother remained that way, lucid and deranged, until now. Now that I've become the princess consort of Qi, Mother can finally escape her life of oppression and live quietly in her courtyard. As my birth mother, she deserves a proper title, no longer a mere servant. So the concubine who climbed into bed died of illness. What remained in this world was Lady Yihi, confined to the Prime Minister's residence, plagued by illness ever since giving birth. I wanted to draw near and embrace her, but I couldn't. The moment I approached, she was terrified of me, kneeling straight away and begging for mercy. So I shed my ornate outer robes, wearing only a plain inner garment as I cautiously drew closer. Only then did Mother calm, allowing me to pull her to sit on the stone bench. "Chonner! Chonner!" Her eyes darted frantically about until they found the cloth bundle in my hands. She snatched it swiftly, clutching it tightly to her chest. "Don't be afraid. Mother will protect you. I will protect you." That same unwavering resolve shone through her clouded eyes. I knelt before her and buried my face in her embrace, weeping bitterly. "Mother, it's Chandler." As if touched by my words, her guarded body relaxed, and a warm smile spread across her face. She reached out, gently patting the bundle in her arms. Her voice was soft, filled with infinite warmth, but it wasn't for me. "The sun sets, night falls bright, little Chan must rest. 1. Cover with quilt. 2. Close your eyes. 3. Heed mother's words. Little Chan, sleep quietly, tomorrow bring a smile." I reassured myself, "Take it slowly, don't rush. Let mother rest in peace, then seek a physician. One day, she will recognize me. And one day, I would take mother out of the Prime Minister's residence." Yet my heart remained heavy with sorrow. I could only find solace in the faint light from the cloth bundle, listening to a lullaby I hadn't heard in ages. "Lady Cool Cicada, are you happy?" I had just returned to my room from mother's side when I encountered Charming halfway. Dressed in official robes, he must have come straight from court to visit father. His bearing and demeanor faintly echoed the image of that powerful minister from my past life. Unlike before, when he'd greet me with open disgust, this time his expression held only regret. As for his question about happiness, rest assured, Minister sure. How could I not be happy, having risen from a concubine's daughter to the princess consort of Qi? Sherming's face fell briefly before returning to its usual composure. "I happened to have business with the Chancellor today and unexpectedly encountered you. Might you need an escort?" The path from the mansion's main gate to father's study did indeed traverse the entire garden, though servants usually guided visitors, and this wasn't the usual route. Still, I didn't call him out on his lie and led him to the study. Our conversation along the way was pleasantly cordial. As we neared the study, Sherming halted. "Miss Liangchan, I fear I'm meddling, but I must speak my mind. I've witnessed the eldest miss meeting others at the tea house more than once. The crest on that guard's uniform belongs to the Prince Chi's residence. I fear the eldest miss is up to no good again. Though you will soon be the principal consort, you must remain vigilant against such underhanded schemes." I was quite surprised by Sherming's unexpected kindness. However, the one who would suffer was Yi Rongyu. Being watched by Sherming so early on, who knew when these little pieces of dirt would explode? Yi Rongyu went to find Lu Mingxiu, no doubt to flaunt her life-saving favor and reminisce about the past. She was merely trying to stir up Lu Mingxiu's pity. The position of Qi Prince's consort is mine anyway. Thank you for the warning, but my elder sister wouldn't stoop to such underhanded tactics. Hearing my words, Sherming looked taken aback for a moment. He sighed with a hint of disappointment, as if lamenting wasted potential, then smiled helplessly. "You are too kind-hearted, young lady. You know nothing of the treacherous nature of human hearts." I had no reply, only a faint smile. "Never mind. Let's drop it. Miss Liangchan, though unlikely, I must still warn you, there's unrest brewing in the northwest. Best avoid traveling there." I froze in place. "Rest assured, Your Excellency. I have no plans for distant journeys in the near future." After watching Sherming enter the study, I hurried back to my quarters. Unrest in the northwest? Signs of it surfaced this early? In my past life, Lu Mingxiu brought me, then his secondary consort, to my first banquet precisely to discuss these northwest disturbances. The feudal prince of the northwest had oppressed his people so severely that the already impoverished region descended into utter misery. Initially, the northwest prince merely increased taxes by 10%, demanding payment in the name of the imperial court. When confronted by the court, he used the barrenness of the northwest and the hardships of his people as excuses, persuading the emperor to exempt his fiefdom from taxes. The benevolent emperor even allocated annual subsidies to the northwest. Tasting the sweet reward, the prince grew increasingly brazen, deceiving both above and below. He imposed heavy taxes while simultaneously weeping and pleading, amassing a fortune through sheer greed. But such deceit could not last forever. When the prince sought to build a royal retreat, he forcibly conscripted laborers. Countless young men perished beneath crushing boulders. The oppressed masses finally erupted in rebellion. Young men fought on the front lines while the elderly and women sought aid at the provincial capital. They fled, were recaptured, and fled again. This cycle repeated for 2 or 3 years until a child, bearing countless hopes, finally escaped all the way to the capital. This became the sensational child informant case that shook the capital in a past life. In my past life, I knew nothing. Dragged to the banquet, I listened to their veiled words. Those gathered at the feast, one moment, they raged with righteous indignation against the Northwest King's brutality, the next, spurred by some unseen hand, they began plotting. Plotting how to earn merit in this uprising, how to seize power and profit from it. Alas, they cloaked their true motives in talk of commerce, leaving me utterly bewildered. Back then, I only felt their cruelty ran deep, they spared not even the common folk oppressed by merchants. Yet I could only follow the script given by Lu Mingxiu and Yi Rongyu, stiffly putting on a forced smile. Enduring all manner of strange stares. Lu Mingxiu claimed I insisted on accompanying him, unable to leave his side. Others then said I was no different from a concubine wielding power through her merchant overlord husband. Lu Mingxiu even quarreled with them over this, and thus my illustrious reputation as a beauty who charmed the prince with her wiles spread far and wide. Only after the Northwest crisis fully erupted did I learn the true purpose of that banquet. The court was not without loyal subjects devoted to the nation and its people. But not a single one present at that banquet was such a person, Lu Mingxiu included. They were the first to learn of this matter, yet they allowed events to unfold unchecked. For grain is the very foundation of the people. The unrest in the Northwest, coupled with oppressive taxes and forced labor conscription, led to reduced grain yields, even shortages, in the region. Both the Northwest King and the common folk had to purchase grain from neighboring provinces. Rising grain prices meant pure silver for these men. Thus, they turned a blind eye. I witnessed the flood of displaced people pouring into the capital from the Northwest. They trekked long distances seeking justice, pleading for heaven's mercy, begging the emperor to spare the Northwest. Yet how many starved to death along the way? How many more starved to death outside the capital walls? Their bones piled into mountains, consumed by flames in a single blaze. Yet Prince Qi, Lu Mingxiu, moved by the suffering of the Northwest populace, voluntarily funded a campaign. He coordinated with surrounding prefectures and counties to cut off grain supplies and block escape routes, then deployed troops to suppress the rebellion, ultimately overthrowing the Northwest King. The people of the Northwest, grateful for the Prince of Qi's benevolence, erected a statue of the war god to commemorate his deeds. The emperor, too, recognized his merits. Plagued by illness and unable to rise from his bed, he abdicated in favor of his younger brother and retired to Mount Tai to seek enlightenment through meditation. Thus, Lu Mingxiu, the Prince of Qi, ascended the throne. Judging by the timeline, unrest may have just erupted in the Northwest. If someone intervened now, perhaps the tragedy of my past life could be averted. But what could I possibly do? My entire savings wouldn't even cover my immediate needs. One night, I sat motionless by my bed, gazing at the full moon outside the window. At dawn, I still picked up my brush and wrote a letter. I hope I haven't misjudged the person. Sister, I hear you've been spending a lot of time with that penniless scholar lately? Don't tell me you're trying to curry favor just because he became father's disciple and got a government post. Don't let it become common knowledge and make us a laughingstock. As I tucked away the letter, Yi Rongyu barged in. Spotting my actions, she launched into a barrage of sarcastic remarks. Sister, I've told you time and again, we are the heaven-chosen maidens. Now you've found your perfect match and become the princess consort of Qi, surpassing me. I hope you'll settle down and stop thinking about others. If the prince finds out, even I won't be able to restrain him. Yi Rongyu sighed dramatically, flaunting her privileged status. When I ignored her, she huffed and left with a mocking laugh. Even if you're careful, what good is that? You can't stop others from reporting you. Her warning didn't faze me. It wasn't surprising she knew about my connection with Sherming, but she had no proof. Ever since she ransacked my room last time, I'd mentioned it to father. As the designated princess consort of Qi, Lu Mingxiu would occasionally send gifts. If imperial gifts were mixed among them and Yi Rongyu damaged any, the consequences would be too grave for anyone to bear. With father's strict orders and fear of imperial punishment, Yi Rongyu never touched my belongings again. All she could do was vent her frustration verbally. So when Yi Rongyu and Lu Mingxiu burst into the tea house during my meeting with Sherming, where we discussed the Northwest situation and solutions, I wasn't surprised. Your Highness, look who we ran into. What a delightful surprise to encounter Sister Liang Chan today. Yi Rongyu pushed open the door with a coquettish laugh. Hearing that voice, I could only sigh inwardly. So I'd been discovered after all. Trouble. I tried to gather the items on the table, but Yi Rongyu opened the private room door too quickly for me to react. Lu Mingxiu's gaze swept across the room before settling on the table. I could only withdraw my hand, pretending I'd merely reached for the teacup. Yi Rongyu froze upon seeing Sherming seated directly across from me, her brows furrowing in feigned concern. Liang Chan, I've told you countless times, now that you're a princess consort, how could you still behave this way? Her words sounded so kind, as if she truly cared for me like a sister. If only the surprise on her face when she entered hadn't been so exaggerated. Alas, this scene wasn't the battlefield of chaos she'd imagined. Sherming stood up and bowed respectfully to Lu Mingxiu. I also rose to my feet, but just as I began to bow to Lu Ming, he caught me in his arms. Your Highness never imagined his future consort would deliver such unexpected delights. His gaze flickered toward the map on the table, his meaning clear. I could only maintain a smile. Lu Mingxiu showed no anger, if anything, the interest in his eyes toward me deepened. But Yi Rongyu didn't see it that way, continuing to fan the flames. Your private meeting is one thing, but how could Mr. Sure dare leak the prince's secrets? Even if Liang Chan is the princess consort, what could a mere woman possibly understand? What if she accidentally revealed something that disrupted the prince's plans and affected court affairs? What then? Yi Rongyu spoke with feigned concern, his gaze full of reproach toward me. To make matters worse, Lu Mingxiu joined in. Indeed, future princess consort. What if the situation your elder sister described actually happened? How would we handle it? Facing Lu Mingxiu's increasingly intense gaze, I felt utterly helpless. Didn't His Highness already suspect this? Why stir things up now? Lu Mingxiu curved his lips, leaning his face close to mine. Then I'll need the princess consort's full disclosure. This truly is a rather significant surprise. His words held no trace of anger, instead brimming with suggestive undertones. Yi Rongyu, who moments ago had beamed with delight at Lu Mingxiu's questioning, froze in place. The current scene wasn't unfolding as she'd anticipated, leaving her momentarily bewildered. Your Highness, what is this? Observing her expression, I arched an eyebrow and pushed Lu Mingxiu away as he leaned closer. Confession? Fine. But first, Your Highness, please dismiss the uninvited guests. Lu Mingxiu rose, his face impassive as he regarded Yi Rongyu. Miss Yi, please leave. The future princess and I have private matters to discuss. Yi Rongyu hesitated to leave, but Sherming, equally expressionless, muttered my apologies and pulled her away. Inside the private room, Lu Mingxiu naturally took Sherming's vacated seat, propping his elbows on the table as he tapped the circled northwest region on the map. I was unaware, Your Highness, that behind Magistrate Sherming's actions lies the future princess consort as his military strategist. I gazed at the map, letting out an almost imperceptible sigh. He had found out after all. That night, I sat in silence, racking my brain for solutions until I could think of only the most trustworthy person by my side, Sherming. In my past life, though he had made things difficult for me at every turn, he was still a competent official. My father could have resolved matters faster, but I didn't want to add to his political achievements, nor did I wish to reveal myself too soon. Though now, it had been revealed anyway. I took a sip of tea and cleared my throat. First, I have not yet truly become Your Highness's wife, so please adjust your address. Second, as Your Highness surmised, I did it. Though I borrowed Lu Mingxiu's method from his past life. I'm not that clever, I couldn't devise a new tactic so quickly. Anyway, Lu Mingxiu hadn't implemented it yet, so taking it directly wasn't much of an issue. I merely proposed a possibility, Magistrate Sure refined it for me. Admit it plainly, no need for modesty. Lu Mingxiu didn't press me further, merely holding the map as he inquired in detail about my plan. Perhaps the current Lu Mingxiu hadn't yet finalized the entire scheme. So I recited it verbatim. Seeing Lu Mingxiu's approving gaze, I instinctively felt a pang of guilt for a moment. Fortunately, he didn't notice. He took the map, left a parting remark about waiting until he married me, and departed. Having entrusted him with everything, I settled back into life at the Prime Minister's residence. Yi Rongyu, surprisingly, refrained from further scheming. That day, when Lu Mingxiu once again dismissed her as irrelevant, her resentment simmered. Initially, she'd taunt me relentlessly with insults about being a seductress. Then, as if struck by some sudden madness, she began treating me with pity. The prince is merely preoccupied with state affairs. Don't get too cocky. He cares deeply for me, fearing my constant worries might harm my health. Sister, don't be sad. Hearing this, I shot Yi Rongyu a suspicious glance before asking out of curiosity. Big sister, did Prince Qi tell you this himself? Yi Rongyu flushed with a coy smile. How could His Highness be so explicit? But I understood. I got it, this was something to be felt, not spoken. I nodded in understanding. As long as you're happy. Yi Rongyu dismissed me as merely jealous, snorting disdainfully before leaving. With her out of my way, I enjoyed the peace. As for the wedding gown, I refused to pour my heart into it. Fortunately, the princess consort's attire was crafted by the palace tailors, sparing me the task of sewing it myself. While Yi Rongyu stitched her own wedding gown thread by thread, I had other matters to attend to. I had to visit my mother regularly and seek physicians to treat her. Day after day passed, and finally, the day of my marriage arrived. Though I was not marrying the one I loved, I still donned the wedding gown and entered my mother's courtyard. After this period of treatment, Mother's condition had improved greatly. She no longer knelt at the sight of fine garments. Still clutching that cloth bundle, she hummed a nursery rhyme in her slow, steady way. Mother, I'm getting married. Rest assured, I'll be fine. Look at this gown, your daughter will be a princess now. You needn't worry about me. I chattered on, my words mingling with the lullaby. Mother, I must go now. I will rescue you. Finally, I embraced her tightly and whispered the promise softly into her ear. 10 miles of crimson wedding finery lined the long street, the entire Prime Minister's residence ablaze with festive cheer. Gongs and drums resounded, and every passerby offered congratulations. The mansion buzzed with joy, yet my chamber remained quiet, attended only by my maidservant. As if I were not the rightful bride, no one stood before my door until the auspicious hour, merely going through the motions. Unlike Yi Rongyu, who wept at her wedding and was seen off by her mistress, I smiled all the way into the bridal sedan chair. The Qi prince's residence was bustling too, though that liveliness never reached the bride. Seated in the bridal chamber, I immediately lifted my veil and began eating the pastries on the table. Yi Rongyu had her mistress to care for her, she wouldn't go hungry. I had no one. I was hungry. After eating, drowsiness overtook me. I swept aside the bedding and lay down. I must say, the prince's bed was far more comfortable than the Prime Minister's. I rolled over once, successfully burying myself beneath the covers. I beckoned to the maid standing frozen nearby. Lower the bed curtains. As the bed darkened, I closed my eyes in contentment. After all, Lu Mingxiu wouldn't be appearing in my room today. The next day, I awoke only at daybreak, roused by the maid's exasperated shouts. Your Highness, it's time to go to the palace to express gratitude. I nodded, sat before the dressing table with eyes still closed, and when I opened them again, my hair was styled in a woman's chignon. Jade hairpins, gold hair ornaments, a red flower pin adorning my brow. The reflection in the mirror looked so noble it seemed to wear a mask. I stared at the bronze mirror, lost in thought, until another face appeared in the reflection. Lu Mingxiu and I wore identical robes, appearing like a perfect pair. Your Highness, let us depart. Before Lu Mingxiu could reach out, I broke the silence. Yi Rongyu stood waiting by the door. Seeing me, she beamed with radiant joy. The princess consort has arrived. I rose late and failed to greet you properly, my apologies. She fiddled with her robes, carelessly revealing a crimson mark, adopting the feigned demeanor of a delicate, newly favored concubine. Yet her steps were unsteady, and though powder covered her face, it couldn't mask her pallor. It seems sister had a pleasant night. That's good. I hope every day brings you such joy. Your Highness, keep up the good work. May we see your child soon. Me.Reborn hadn't expected me to speak so openly about intimate matters in public. Shock and embarrassment flashed across her face in rapid succession. Me.Reborn reacted similarly, staring at me with a look of novelty, as if meeting me for the first time. I took several steps before realizing they were still standing rooted to the spot. Only when I shot them a glance did they finally begin to move forward. The atmosphere in the carriage remained awkward all the way until we entered the palace and were about to present ourselves before His Majesty. Only then did Me.Reborn speak up to remind me of the points I needed to pay attention to. The entire morning was spent paying respects to various officials within the palace. Me.Reborn, who had originally planned to make things difficult for me, was much quieter than usual. It wasn't until we returned to the mansion that she finally strode up to me, head held high. Sister, are you jealous that on his wedding night, the prince abandoned you, his lawful wife, to come to my chambers and entwine himself with me? I was astonished by her twisted logic, but too weary to explain. I simply nodded dismissively, letting her revel in her own delusion. With the Prince of Chee's wedding, the capital's nobles and dignitaries naturally flocked to join the festivities. Banquets of all sizes followed one after another, and Me.Reborn accepted every invitation without hesitation. I didn't know what Me.Reborn had discussed with Me.Reborn, but each time we attended, I was still the one accompanying him. At the banquets, Me.Reborn attended to my every need, just as he had in my previous life. If anyone showed me disrespect or made remarks about my background, he would fly into a rage. Before long, the entire capital was abuzz with praise for Me.Reborn's devotion to his wife. The ladies who saw me were filled with envy, saying I was blessed to have married such a fine husband. They praised my skill in guiding my husband, saying I had surpassed the legitimate daughter to become the princess consort, setting an example for those born of concubines. Even so, Me.Reborn didn't seem angry. She only made sour, harmless remarks whenever she saw me. Though I found it somewhat baffling, I still accompanied Me.Reborn to every grand banquet in the capital. The solidarity among women can sometimes surprise men. Some of them could directly relay messages to their husbands, thereby forging connections within the network one step ahead. For instance, when the wife of an official from the Ministry of Personnel flaunted new jewelry, if it didn't come from a shop in the capital, one could infer that someone had used connections to secure a transfer. When the wife of a Ministry of Revenue official mentioned tasting sujo glutinous rice, it signaled which faction needed leniency on customs duties or land taxes. A casual reference by the wife of a Ministry of Justice official to a certain case revealed someone seeking to cover up a crime or overturn a verdict. Every casual remark carried weight. Careful analysis could uncover major affairs, providing leverage or opportunities for alliance. To me, these were the most crucial pieces of information. Finally, I secured my ticket into the capital's aristocratic ladies' circle, an invitation to watch a polo match. Are you pleased, Your Highness? Just as I let a genuine smile spread across my face, Me.Reborn suddenly leaned in, propping his chin on his hand as he studied me. I immediately forced the smile away. Since Your Highness has made friends, perhaps it's time to repay this prince. I understood the meaning in Me.Reborn's eyes. From our wedding night until now, he hadn't touched me. I was utterly unwilling to endure that torment again, always using his abandonment of me on our wedding night as an excuse. Me.Reborn knew he was in the wrong and didn't force me. When he needed release, he went to Me.Reborn. According to the servants, the most frequent night saw him summoned 4 times, lasting until dawn. The next day, Me.Reborn naturally didn't appear. Yet she stubbornly sent a maid to deliver a message, boasting that the prince was so vigorous she couldn't get out of bed, and asking for my understanding, clearly trying to provoke me. But you can't hide forever. The prince and princess not sharing a bed indefinitely wasn't sustainable. Now that I'd obtained what I desired, it was time to pay the price. Pinned beneath him on the bed, I lay in a daze, consumed by bitter regret. I'd foolishly believed Me.Reborn would find release with Me.Reborn, that his energy would be spent. How careless of me. Sister, congratulations. Upon learning of my consummation with Me.Reborn arrived early, her sole purpose to deliver a venomous jab. Seeing I couldn't rise from the bed, her expression flickered between understanding and jealousy. But she couldn't stop it, only spewing sour remarks from the sidelines. Right in front of Yi-Rong-yu, I pulled out the roster for the nightly attendance. I'd reserved only the 1st and 15th days for myself, filling the rest entirely with her name. Not satisfied? If you're not satisfied, I'll redo it. Watching Yi-Rong-yu's expression shift repeatedly, a mix of desire and fear, I deliberately pretended to burn the register. She snatched it away urgently. You arranged this yourself. You can't go back on your word. I nodded and gestured for her to leave. A lord's word is final. After she departed, I collapsed onto the bed without any grace, my back and waist aching. This had been my state for quite some time now. Even attending the polo matches left my body aching. Upon learning I couldn't ride, the noble ladies enthusiastically volunteered to be my instructors, a prospect that only deepened my misery. Having been through it themselves, they all seemed to understand my predicament with a knowing look. Especially after the polo matches ended, when the ladies saw Lu Mingxiu waiting for me at the stadium gates, their gazes grew even more suggestive. Soon, the capital's whispers about the Qi prince neglecting his consort transformed into rumors of daily intimacy, inseparable for even a moment. Doubts within the palace faded away. But reality wasn't as rosy as they imagined. Lu Mingxiu came to see me regarding unrest in the northwest. This time, thanks to my early intervention, the northwest populace hadn't reached the point of exhausting all ammunition and provisions like in my past life. The provincial capital hadn't suffered the devastation it had before. If I intervened too early, the credit wouldn't match my past life's achievements, Lu Mingxiu wouldn't allow it. If I delayed, following the past timeline, all my efforts would be wasted. What if the Prince of the Northwest intends to rebel? Prince Fanning of the Northwest plots rebellion. He publicly increases corvée labor to build a royal retreat, yet secretly trains private troops deep in the mountains. The tax hikes fund logistics for his future military campaigns. Studying the map, I calmly uttered these treasonous words. Lu Mingxiu's eyes lit up inch by inch. His previously furrowed brow smoothed out. He tossed the map aside and pulled me into his embrace. Thank goodness I didn't misjudge you back then. His words about not misjudging me were, in a way, my own bold self-recommendation. To obtain what I desired, I was willing to stake my body and my future as bargaining chips. After Yi-Rong-yu revealed the truth about my life-saving benefactor to Lu Mingxiu specifically came to inform me. Upon receiving his message, I merely sighed inwardly. Men are all the same, restless only for what they cannot possess. So I broke the promise and never replied. It wasn't until Yi-Rong-yu orchestrated a scene with me on the day Prince Qi returned to the capital that Lu Mingxiu couldn't resist coming to find me himself. That's when I gained leverage. My demand was to become the princess consort of Qi, and that he couldn't touch me against my will. His demand was for me to find a way to reduce my father's influence in the court. My father had always been upright and honorable. After serving as chancellor for so many years, not a single flaw could be found in him. But he had students and disciples. That was the opening. I only needed to unravel the threads in conversations with the other consorts, compile the information for Lu Mingxiu, and his people would naturally uncover something. Just days ago, reports surfaced of an imperial censor accusing one of father's disciples of bribing the Ministry of Personnel to plant his own men within the Ministry of Revenue. The intricate web of political maneuvering directly implicated father. As the Ministry of Revenue oversees the state treasury, the emperor had no choice but to act. He publicly reprimanded father and docked his salary. Though seemingly a minor punishment, what father truly lost was the emperor's trust. Trust, once cracked, only widens until it shatters completely. I've underestimated women before, and I've underestimated you. Your cruelty is astonishing, consort. You could even turn against your own father. His iron grip held my waist. I struggled briefly, then gave up when I realized I couldn't move. A father who ignored my mother and didn't register me in the family registry until I was 10? I scoffed, the hatred in my eyes enough to convince Lu Mingxiu that I bore a grudge against the Prime Minister's household. Your Highness, do not forget your promise. Once this matter is settled, you agreed to let me take my mother away. Otherwise. My voice was soft as I rested my head on Lu Mingxiu's shoulder, yet my hand traced the curve of his neck, laced with threat. Lu Mingxiu did not grow angry. Instead, he laughed aloud. All speak of the Prime Minister's legitimate daughter as clever, yet they mistake fish eyes for pearls. My consort is the true pearl, spicy enough in temperament. I like that. Faced with his praise, I felt no guilt, accepting it wholeheartedly. But this wasn't due to cleverness or ruthlessness. In my past life, the Northwest King had indeed been raising private troops, plotting rebellion. Those men had infiltrated the conscripted laborers, nearly causing Lu Mingxiu, the invincible Prince of Qi, to suffer a hidden defeat. Fortunately, Lu Mingxiu was determined to use this opportunity to eliminate Fan Ying. He personally transferred some troops from the frontier, breaking through the blockade at the critical moment. With both armies advancing simultaneously, Fan Ying's private forces were utterly annihilated. Yet the conscripted laborers that followed were nearly wiped out as well. The battlefield knows no mercy, they would rather kill by mistake than let anyone escape. Reflecting now, Lu Mingxiu had long prepared for his ascension to the throne. And the silver amassed through the unrest in the northwest, was that not also a strategic investment for the armies under his command? I pressed my lips together, seizing Lu Mingxiu's hand before it could reach my collar. Your Highness, I have but one request: minimize casualties among the northwest populace, including the conscripted laborers. Is that acceptable? Lu Mingxiu pinched my soft flesh, his eyes flashing with that familiar excitement. Very well. That depends on the consort's conduct. 12th month of Tianqin. Prince Fan Ying of the Northwest was discovered harboring a private army and harboring treasonous intentions. The benevolent emperor ordered his forces disbanded and commanded Prince Fan Ying to enter the capital in white robes to plead his case. Yet the prince disobeyed, slaying the imperial envoy, tearing the edict, and openly rebelling. The emperor, enraged, specially commanded Prince Lu Mingxiu of Qi to dispatch troops to suppress the rebellion. War had begun. Sister, everyone knows your highness is an invincible general. To suppress a mere feudal prince, why must you put on such an act of concern? As I instructed men to scout outside the city, Yi Rongyu, unable to bear my composure, opened her mouth with mockery. I ignored her, continuing to send scouts beyond the city walls, demanding reports every hour. This war, certain to be won, held no worry for me. My concern lay with the displaced people. Long before the emperor's decree, I had instructed merchants under Lu Mingxiu's command to send word to the northwest. I urged the people there to disguise themselves as refugees and depart gradually. Fan Ying would be overjoyed to have no refugees in his fiefdom. But once war began, displaced people would inevitably appear. I had to be prepared. The horrors of my past life must not be repeated. Immediately, I summoned the steward of the prince's residence. Together, we opened the ledgers to calculate expenses and drafted several letters to the ladies with whom I maintained good relations. Whether it was for themselves or their husbands, if they wished to earn a good reputation, they would willingly contribute both money and effort. Just as I stepped out of the hall, I turned back and stood before Yi Rongyu. Concubine Yi, now that you know you're with child, take it easy. It's best to stay put in the prince's residence. The prince is out fighting. If you love him, don't go anywhere. But if anyone uses you, or the child in your womb, to threaten the prince, causing him to lose focus on the battlefield and get injured, well, you'll have to deal with the consequences yourself. You. How do you know? Yi Rongyu clutched her abdomen, her face frozen in shock. Let me tell you this, don't think the prince's absence gives you free rein. Her warning held no sway over me. Her pregnancy was no secret to me, the crown princess. Menstrual cycles were meticulously recorded in the ledgers, a simple check would confirm it. Moreover, the prince's first heir should have been born to the official consort. Yi Rongyu's child was meant to be terminated. Yet it was I who saved her child before the Empress Dowager. Mother, when I was young, I fell into the water and sought a physician. It is likely I cannot conceive. The secondary consort and I are blood sisters. If she bears a child first and raises it under my name, that would be acceptable. The Empress Dowager could only acquiesce. Facing Lu Mingxiu, I simply stated I was barren. Both of them sought physicians to diagnose my pulse, and they all reached the same conclusion. Ultimately, they had no choice but to compromise and spare the child in Yi Rongyu's womb. Of course, my inability to conceive was a lie. Before my marriage, I sought out my father and struck a deal with him. The prince's first child would undoubtedly be born to Yi Rongyu. In return, my father would procure contraceptive medicine for me and herbs to deceive the imperial physicians during pulse examinations. My father, ever partial to Yi Rongyu as his legitimate daughter, readily agreed. Since Lu Mingxiu was destined to become emperor, Yi Rongyu bearing his child might even secure her a shot at the empress's throne. But my child must not appear now. I glanced at her still flat abdomen and let out a cold laugh. Not only did I know she was pregnant, I knew she'd informed the Prime Minister's household, and my father, the moment she discovered it. I won't harm you or your child, I said. But others might. The higher one's position, the more they weigh their options. The more bargaining chips one holds, the better. Think carefully. I deliberately exaggerated the consequences. Yi Rongyu was wholly devoted to Lu Mingxiu and obsessed with her position above all others. She should be clear-headed enough. She knew who truly mattered to her. Sure enough, after I returned from visiting the other consorts, the steward reported that Yi Rongyu remained quietly in her courtyard, going nowhere. The mansion seemed settled, but before I could relax, servants reported that a large group of refugees was approaching from 5 miles outside the capital. Let's go. I, the princess consort, will personally oversee the situation. At the city gate, I directed guards to set up soup kitchens and rest areas. Some well-connected individuals also rushed to the gate to assist. When the first refugee appeared, he knelt down the moment he saw the city gate. Fellow villagers, help has come. His voice was mournful and desolate, not loud, yet piercing enough to strike everyone's heart. Facing the surging refugees, I waved my hand decisively. Distribute soup, give medicine, maintain order. Initially, there was scrambling, but with soldiers and household guards maintaining order, things quickly stabilized. One after another, they received their rations in an orderly fashion. Sick children or adults were all transferred to the makeshift medical station, where specialized physicians provided treatment. The refugees from the northwest were more numerous than imagined, and their suffering was beyond what anyone had anticipated. They said that after receiving news from the shops, some had indeed managed to escape. But the numbers were too great, and they were discovered by Fanning. Fanning didn't want the refugees, but he also wouldn't tolerate large-scale civilian flight. So he simply sent troops to round them up. With news of Lu Mingxiu's impending suppression of the Northwest Rebellion now set in stone, Fanning forcibly conscripted every able-bodied man from his fiefdom. Before Lu Mingxiu even arrived, the people were already displaced, driven to the capital in search of any chance for survival. Fortunately, I was prepared. People were settled in batches, and grain from within the city was delivered in batches. Even I personally served the porridge. Old man, take your time. There are steamed buns over there too. I dodged the old man's kneeling gratitude and continued my task. Next. But just as I was about to explain the city's layout, I inadvertently noticed something unusual about this refugee. Unlike the emaciated others, he was robust, his thighs muscular. His eyes held no joy of a long-awaited rain. His gaze toward me carried ill intent. What truly alerted me was the faint tattoo glimpsed beneath his collar. It was the eagle tattoo exclusive to Fan Ying's personal guards, the so-called eagle soldiers. I hadn't expected them to infiltrate the refugees. Their target might very well be me. Suppressing my panic, I pretended nothing was amiss and continued my explanation. Fortunately, I'd been cautious. Fearing a repeat of Lu Mingxiu's downfall, I'd stationed most of my guards at the city gates, leaving only a few at the mansion. As I distributed the porridge, several guards stood watch with drawn swords beside me. So I pretended to be tired, stepped back, and went to rest in the rear where more people gathered. Those eagle soldiers were waiting for an opportunity. With so many people around now, they dared not act. This was my chance. As if giving routine orders, I told my guards what I had discovered. They pretended to inspect the remaining grain and the displaced people's situation, using it as a cover to observe the man. The eagle soldiers infiltrating the refugees were a 15-man squad, manageable. I rose and stepped directly outside the safety perimeter. The palace guards also moved near the eagle soldiers, pretending to patrol and inspect. Once the last man was in position, I bellowed. Seize the eagle soldiers of the Northwest King. Everyone else, stand down. Chaos erupted among the refugees. The eagle soldiers attempted resistance, but facing 2 to 3 dozen battle-hardened men, they were subdued swiftly. I explained the situation to the refugees. Their fury boiling over, the 15 men were pelted with stones picked up from the ground. Only when they begged for mercy did I calm the crowd. Afterward, I brought the 15 men back to the palace for rigorous interrogation. Not only had they intended to capture me to threaten Lu Mingxiu, but they also planned to infiltrate the palace and assassinate His Majesty. With the influx of Northwest refugees into the capital, the emperor did indeed allow some to enter the palace to explain their circumstances. This was their opportunity. Is there anything else you haven't confessed? Speak clearly, or you'll all be castrated and made eunuchs. The emperor's sudden outburst caught me off guard. This punishment felt worse than death. I was amused, but the men were so terrified they immediately confessed. Some of us infiltrated the capital. Since we couldn't capture the Qi prince's consort, we thought capturing his pregnant secondary consort would be better. With an heir, the Qi prince would care more. It's time to act. The emperor roared with fury, about to dispatch the imperial guards to protect Yi Rong's safety. But I stepped forward leisurely and spoke to calm the emperor. Your Majesty, please do not be hasty. Your sister-in-law has made her own preparations. Before leaving today, I specifically ordered the mansion to close its gates to visitors. Anyone returning from outside the city to fetch provisions must provide the correct password to enter, otherwise, the gates remain shut. This ensures no one can impersonate a palace guard and infiltrate the mansion. I also instructed the steward that if anything unusual occurs, he must immediately send someone through the secret passage to seek help from the Jingzhou prefecture. Now that His Majesty has dispatched the imperial guards to assist, there should be no further issues. Your Majesty, the priority now is uncovering the truth. By all accounts, Consort Ye's pregnancy was only half a month along, known to but a few within the mansion. How did the Northwest Prince learn of it? Though we were fortunate to have prepared in advance, we cannot guard against malicious interference by those with ulterior motives. Your sister-in-law willingly submits to restraint to prove her innocence. Ahem. Very well. I trust you. With me setting the precedent, the emperor immediately launched a thorough investigation. Outside the prince's residence, imperial guards patrolled constantly. The emperor had announced that someone sought to harm me while Lu Mingxiu was absent from the capital, so I requested the emperor's protection. No messages from anyone could be delivered inside. Within the mansion, undercurrents swirled as the emperor personally arrived to oversee the investigation. Soon, suspicion was lifted from the prince's residence, leaving only the prime minister's mansion, my father. Yi Rongyu was detained, and numerous letters between her and my father were discovered in her chambers. Most detailed daily life at the mansion, including Lu Mingxiu's training schedule at the drill ground and news of Yi Rongyu's pregnancy. Impossible, Your Majesty. Father would never harm me. Yi Rongyu refused to believe it, yet the evidence stood undeniable. The emperor pursued the lead of my father's involvement. Investigations confirmed the chancellor's household indeed conducted business in the Northwest, but no concrete evidence linked it to collaboration with the Northwest King, leaving only suspicion. But Chancellor Yi has indeed shown signs of fatigue lately. With advancing age, one naturally feels less capable. Chancellor Yi should take some time to rest. With that single, weightless sentence, the emperor stripped my father of his authority, confining him to retirement with no set date for his return. Yi Liangchan, father is your father too. The prime minister's residence is your home as well. How can you stand by and watch him suffer such humiliation? Only after the emperor departed did Yi Rongyu dare vent her fury at me. Pregnant, the maids dared not restrain her forcefully, and she lunged forward, crashing into me. Caught off guard, I stumbled as she grabbed me. Watching her frenzied state, I let out a mocking smile. Didn't you bring this upon father? You revealed your pregnancy to him. Father has business interests in the Northwest. Once the rebellion there is quelled, his profits will plummet. You're not him, how could you possibly know his thoughts? If father wanted to injure the prince, delay the suppression, or even ensure the prince's defeat to protect his business, who's to say? Impossible. Father said he would let the prince ascend. Realizing what she had said, Yi Rongyu quickly regained her composure. She released my collar and forced herself to look at me calmly. In any case, father would never allow harm to come to the prince. It must be your doing, you've deceived the emperor. Even if his majesty has been misled, I will uncover the truth and clear the prime minister's name. You, however, can prepare for prison. With those harsh words, Yi Rongyu stormed off. I stood where I was, adjusting my collar, and gave a slight nod to the steward beside me. Proceed. Yi Rongyu was correct in her assumption. It was I who leaked the news of her pregnancy to the Northwest Prince through the Merchants Guild. After she conceived, I recognized this as a golden opportunity. Just as she stated, father intended to elevate Lu Mingxiu to power. The current emperor, though frail, held the position of legitimate eldest son, making his ascension to the throne a natural progression. Compounded by the previous emperor's reckless neglect, the court had fallen into disarray, with authority fragmented. Some ministers sought to exploit this to seize control of the court and manipulate imperial authority. Father was among the most prominent of these. After ascending the throne, the emperor began seizing power, but his frail constitution, despite his cunning, ultimately proved his downfall. Aware of his predicament, the emperor knew his days were numbered and could not resolve this issue. His only recourse was to recall Lu Mingxiu from the frontier. Lu Mingxiu possessed robust health and military authority. Even if his political scheming were slightly inferior, he could still uphold the imperial house, and in truth, his strategic acumen matched the emperor's. Compared to the emperor, his only disadvantages were lacking the status of the eldest legitimate son and being out of touch with the capital due to years away. The emperor sought to create a relatively stable court for Lu Mingxiu before his ascent, enabling him to boldly resolve the issue of power slipping from his grasp. Father knew the emperor feared him, so he aimed to establish a connection with Lu Mingxiu through a marriage alliance. Lu Mingxiu naturally coveted the throne, but he refused to accept it as a gift. He sought to seize it through his own means. Thus, he equipped his own army and even entered into an alliance with the prime minister's family through marriage, yet he remained determined not to be constrained by them. The brothers had a frank and open discussion. The emperor admired Lu Mingxiu's boldness and drive, allowing him to achieve feats that would win the people's respect. I witnessed this tense, sword-drawn negotiation. Afterward, I sought to find my father's weakness. Yi Rongyu was pregnant, my father would surely make a move, and the crown prince was the perfect bargaining chip. But none of us would let the child be born, including Lu Mingxiu. After the emperor ordered my father to retire, he sent word for Yi Rongyu to stay safely within the prince's residence, not to go anywhere. But he forgot there was also me in the mansion. On the day Lu Mingxiu returned triumphant, bringing the defeated Northwest king back to the capital, a letter bearing my father's handwriting reached Yi Rongyu. The maid delivering it waited anxiously outside the hall, but I had Yi Rongyu pinned to the dining table. For the child's sake, you must follow the imperial physician's orders and consume the necessary tonics. She could only endure it, slowly sipping the scalding medicinal broth. Then the blood-red bird's nest, specially prepared for her each day by the kitchen, was brought in. Yi Rongyu had no choice but to abandon all decorum, lifting the bowl to gulp it down hastily before immediately retreating to her chambers with her attendants. Before long, she demanded to leave the mansion. I want to be the first person the prince sees when he returns to the capital. I must go see him. Her guilt was palpable, but I pretended not to notice. After staring at her for a long moment, a faint smile finally touched my lips. Go then. The prince will be delighted to see you. What are you doing here? Didn't I tell you not to return? The moment father saw Yi Rongyu, he knew trouble was brewing and immediately scolded her. Father, Yi Rongyu couldn't get a word in before her father cut her off. Hurry back to the mansion before anyone sees you. Today, pretend you never came back. That won't do. Your daughter here saw it with her own eyes, you know. I pushed open the door to find father and daughter still locked in a shoving match. What are you doing here? Came to laugh at me? Compared to his father's composure, Yi Rongyu seemed even more flustered. But his father's calm was feigned. He shielded Yi Rongyu behind him, facing me directly. What brings the princess consort back to the estate? I shrugged, offering a helpless smile. Visiting family. Oh, and timing things. Yi Rongyu looked utterly confused, but father's expression grew increasingly grave. 3. Ignoring their unease, I walked straight to the chair on the left. 2. 1. Unable to tolerate my audacity, Yi Rongyu stepped forward to scold me. You're paranoid. I think you. Ah. I had just sat down, perfectly positioned to savor Yi Rongyu's agonized expression. What have you done? Clutching her stomach, she collapsed into father's arms, writhing in agony as blood slowly seeped from between her legs. Wicked daughter! Someone! Quick, someone! Where is everyone? Don't you want to live anymore? For the first time, father lost his composure and shouted, yet no one answered. I sat upright in my seat, laughing lazily. Father, what great official authority you possess. Pity, no one will come. Beyond this door, everyone in the Prime Minister's residence has long been under my control. I'm not afraid to tell you, today, your daughter returned home to carry out the Emperor's business. He tried to rise, but Yi Rongyu seized him. Father, it hurts so much. Yi Liangchan, you vile woman. How dare you harm my child? The prince will punish you. You'll die a miserable death. She tried to rise and curse me, but the more she moved, the more blood flowed, the more her abdomen throbbed. A miserable death? I've already experienced one. In my past life, I too had been pregnant. Because of my own experience, I didn't want my child to suffer the same torment, so I considered terminating the pregnancy. But when Lu Mingxiu found out, he forcibly forced me to keep it. He imprisoned me, ordering maids to watch me day and night, while pretending to torment me. Yi Rongyu didn't notice at first, it was her father who sensed something was amiss. So, under the pretext of renovating the mansion, Yi Rongyu searched the entire estate for me while Lu Mingxiu was away. By then, my pregnancy was already showing, and I could even feel the baby moving. Yet this father and daughter beat my abdomen with sticks, forcing me to miscarry. When Lu Mingxiu rushed back, they accused me of conceiving a bastard child through adultery, using the pretext of protecting the royal family's reputation to cover it up. Your Highness, failing to raise a child properly is a father's fault. I beg you, for my sake, to spare this rebellious daughter's life. My father put on a show of remorse, while Yi Rongyu stood by, playing the role of the virtuous elder sister. Indeed, Your Highness. It was her first mistake. There will absolutely be no next time. Lu Mingxiu's face turned ashen as he accepted my father's bargain, a family shop in the capital, worth a fortune, in exchange for my life. It seemed to be for my sake, but it was the price my father paid to prevent Lu Mingxiu from taking his anger out on Yi Rongyu. I clung to life by a thread, barely surviving until Lu Mingxiu ascended the throne. Yet Yi Rongyu still sent me to hell with a baseless accusation of adultery. What I never could have imagined was that this father and daughter wouldn't even spare my mother. After my death, Yi Rongyu had people spread rumors about my alleged debauchery and promiscuity right in front of her. Perhaps through a mother-daughter bond, even in her delirium, mother remembered my past pleas. She fled the Prime Minister's residence, calling my name, declaring my innocence. Little Chon'er is innocent. She was a good woman. She was innocent. But emaciated and deranged, she was seized as a madwoman and dragged to the magistrate's office. Father witnessed this, brought her back to the mansion, strangled her to death, and dumped her body in the graveyard. How could I not hate him? Seeing father's worried expression for his daughter before me, I sneered. Father, if you truly wish Yi Rongyu well, then abandon your current schemes. Wouldn't it be better to contentedly serve as a capable minister who eases the sovereign's burdens? Why covet power that isn't yours? If you agree, I'll send healers to treat Yi Rongyu immediately. What do you say? Father, promise her. I'm in such pain. Yi Rongyu's face was deathly pale from agony. Hearing there might be hope, she frantically tugged at her father's robe, her eyes filled with desperate hope. But reality was destined to crush her. Her father averted his gaze from Yi Rongyu, lifting his eyes to meet mine with utter arrogance. I've controlled the court for 30 years. The battles within its halls surpass those on the battlefield. Now I hold half the realm's power, why should I yield? What I've sacrificed for the court, for the empire, is no less than the emperor's. Just because they bear the Lu surname, does that make them the rightful rulers? Ha 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 ha. I doubled over, laughing until my voice cracked, a bitter, mocking laughter. He spoke with righteous indignation, as if he truly were the virtuous minister who would usher in an age of peace for all generations. Only after laughing my fill did I accept the handkerchief offered by the maid beside me, wiping the tears from the corners of my eyes. Father, had you spoken these words 20 years ago, I might have believed you. But what have you done these past 2 decades? As a minister, you refused to serve the sovereign. You fragmented authority, undermined loyal and capable officials, nearly seized control of the court, and coerced the monarch into accepting unreasonable demands, all for your own gain. As a minister, you are incompetent. You ignore the people's pleas, allow your subordinates to seize fertile lands, falsify tax reports, manipulate the law to let murderers walk free while the innocent suffer and die. You disregard human life, collude with the Northwest King for silver, plunging the Northwest into chaos where corpses litter the fields. As a father and husband, you have been utterly useless. I never asked for equal treatment, only that you treat your children as human beings. Yet you care only for profit, using them as bargaining chips, not just the illegitimate ones, but even your beloved legitimate daughter is merely a convenient tool. Yi Zhongru, in what way do your actions align with your claims of serving the court, serving the realm, serving the sovereign? I drew the dagger concealed in my sleeve and plunged it viciously into Yi Zhongru's right shoulder, slicing downward. As I withdrew it, blood instantly drenched my entire sleeve. This very hand struck down my child. This very hand strangled my mother, who even in madness sought to vindicate me. Yi Rongyu had fainted from emotional shock when Yi Zhongru refused her plea, sparing her the sight. Amid Yi Zhongru's wails, I used the dagger's glint as a mirror, smearing the blood from my lips as lipstick. I admired myself for a moment. Beautiful. This was the true crimson of blood. Only when the screams ceased did I lower the dagger. Minister Yi Zhongru colluded with the traitorous Minister Fanning, attempting to use the consort of Prince Qi and the child within her womb as bargaining chips to force the prince to withdraw his troops. Yet the consort personally drank an abortion potion to ensure the prince's safety, a truly heroic act for the nation and its people. Upon the princess consort's arrival, she regained control. Yi Zhongru resisted, wounding her before being captured. For supporting traitors and oppressing the people, all members of the Yi household, except his married daughter, were sentenced to execution, with their clans exterminated to the 9th generation. I carefully wrapped layer upon layer of gauze around my intact palm, taking the opportunity to press firmly on Yi Zhongru's wound, reapplying blood before finally stopping. Father, what do you think of this outcome? Oh, and as for your faction, anyone who errs won't escape punishment. I shook my head, uttering 2 disapproving clicks. Frowning, I turned and strode out the door. The princess consort is wounded. How dare that traitorous minister injure her highness? The guards and maidservants around me, quick to pick up on the situation, loudly proclaimed the reason for my injury, making it known to all. Now the entire capital knew Yi Zhongru was a hypocritical villain, a traitorous minister. In the carriage, I took my mother's hand, she was dressed as a maidservant and cowering beside me, and smiled softly. Mother, your Choner has come to fetch you. Mother trembled slightly. To my astonished gaze, her other hand hesitantly covered the back of my bandaged hand. Blood. Blood. Choner, does it hurt? Tears instantly spilled from the corners of my eyes. It doesn't hurt. Not at all. The Northwest Rebellion sparked by Fanning escalated into a major treason case involving collusion with Yi Zhongru, causing an uproar in the capital. With the greatest obstacle removed, the emperor immediately deployed iron-fisted measures, launching a thorough investigation. Everyone in the capital lived in fear. The main streets were filled with imperial guards, the sounds of pleas and curses echoing everywhere. Deep winter blanketed the land in snow, yet the snow near the Meridian Gate ran red. The executioner's blade had become blunt, unable to sever heads cleanly. Instead, he stabbed them open. The Dali Temple prison overflowed, unable to hold the masses. With no other option, the emperor altered the punishments. Those guilty of grave crimes were beheaded on the spot, lesser offenses were imprisoned for sentencing according to the law. This new year grew ever more bitter, the air thick with the scent of blood. Unlike others' terror, I lived in calm comfort. Secure within the prince's mansion, I tended to my mother, still not fully conscious. After regaining her senses, Yi Rongyu learned everything. She remembered Yi Zhongru abandoning her, yet also remembered his kindness. Love and hate intertwined, conflicting within her. I even forced her to witness the execution of the entire Yi family. In the end, Yi Rongyu came to hate me. Why wouldn't you just obey? Why did you betray me? Why did you destroy my family? You monster. Devil. Though I couldn't grasp what she meant by monster or devil, one word rang true. I was a vengeful specter crawling out of the underworld to claim lives. All who wronged me would pay, sooner or later. Then go die. Death would end it all, no more burdens to bear. But she couldn't. She couldn't bear to. I gave her the noble cause of sacrificing kin, letting her goodness spread throughout the capital. Sherming seized this to broadcast the story of how I'd forced him to annul our betrothal. Everyone in the capital praised her to her face, but behind her back, they despised her as cold-blooded and opportunistic. Lu Mingxiu offered to help me eliminate Yi Rongyu, but I refused. I even petitioned the emperor for a special decree, granting her the title of princess consort and benefits nearly identical to mine. Such a massive temptation was impossible for her to resist. Instead, she resorted to opposing me whenever she could within the mansion. It wasn't until the following spring that this turmoil finally subsided. With the imperial examinations approaching, a sense of prosperity filled the air. Freshly appointed scholars, untouched by power, filled the vacant positions. The emperor specifically entrusted Lu Mingxiu with full authority over the proceedings. Everyone knew that since the previous winter, the emperor had not retreated to the hot spring palace for recuperation and to escape the bitter cold, as he had done in years past, due to his involvement in the Tianjin case. After one winter, the emperor's health steadily declined, and now most state affairs rested with Lu Mingxiu. The remaining court officials understood that Lu Mingxiu was the inevitable successor. The Qi prince's mansion was now bustling with visitors more than ever before. Officials, ladies from prominent families, and young ladies of his own age all flocked to the mansion. Lu Mingxiu currently had only one principal consort and one secondary consort, leaving many positions vacant. Whether seeking favor or marriage alliances, their demeanor was uniformly earnest and fervent. Yet some remained blind to the situation, genuinely believing Yi Rongyu held high standing and treated her with unquestioning obedience. With new admirers surrounding her, Yi Rongyu had regained her air of self-importance. Her blind confidence became a source of amusement amidst my busyness. Lu Mingxiu, in some strange whim, actually entrusted me with handling a small portion of state affairs. Princess, you initiated the matter of the displaced people in the Northwest. I trust you can see it through to the end and handle it even better. Thus, the task fell to me to conclude. Don't worry about being overwhelmed, Ah Chan. I'll send you an assistant. The assistant Lu Mingxiu spoke of was Sherming, who had long been under his command. Sherming looked quite surprised upon seeing me. Your Highness. It's been a long time. The moment Sherming appeared, I understood Lu Mingxiu's intent. He wanted to see if I had any private affairs or collusion with his subordinates. True to Lu Mingxiu's nature, every step had a purpose. Yet this unexpected turn of events ended up being a tremendous help. Sherming proved both capable and reliable. I nodded and offered a greeting. Minister Shi, let us begin. The most troublesome task was determining the fate of the displaced people from the Northwest. If they remained in the capital, we needed to handle their household registration and coordinate with the Ministry of Revenue. If they returned to the Northwest, they required adequate travel funds and assurances for a safe journey home. Half a month later, all matters were finally settled. But as soon as I emerged from these affairs, rumors began swirling through the capital once more. After Lu Mingxiu ascended the throne, Yi Rongyu would become empress. Because I had behaved improperly, not content with being a princess consort, I had committed adultery. And the adulterer was Sherming. No need to guess who started this rumor. When I confronted Yi Rongyu, she made no attempt to deny it. Yes, it was me. What can you do about it? Even if you were following the prince's orders, others don't know that. Countless people saw you two together. Besides, you were once betrothed to that penniless scholar. Yi Rongyu's laughter was sharp and cruel, relishing the embarrassment and infamy I would soon face. Yet I wasn't as flustered as she expected. I merely stared at her with peculiar curiosity. Yi Rongyu, you really need to have your head examined by the court physician. Yi Liangchan, what do you mean? Calling me stupid? Yi Rongyu shot to her feet and strode swiftly before me, her eyes blazing with fury. But before she could press further, the eunuch messenger arrived. It was the same one from last time. His face fell the moment he saw Yi Rongyu, yet his expression softened when he looked at me. Your Highness, the Emperor summons you. Please come with this servant. Yi Rongyu was displeased, yet she knew better than to argue with an eunuch close to the Emperor. No one would protect her now. I calculated the time. Given the Emperor's poor health, it was likely around the time Lu Mingxiu ascended the throne. Yi Rongyu still wore a look of defiance. I shifted my gaze and deliberately asked, Eunuch, might there be anything I should be mindful of on this journey? The eunuch chuckled awkwardly and hastily pushed away the silver I offered. Your Highness, you flatter this humble servant. I cannot speak for other matters, but His Highness is also within the palace, radiant with joy. Lately, the Weaving Bureau and the Imperial Household Department have also grown quite busy. I nodded in understanding and departed under Yi Rongyu's astonished gaze. Wait. Yi Rongyu wasn't stupid, she grasped the implication instantly. She tried to call me back, but no one paid her any mind. Chasing to the doorway, she still attempted to follow me into the palace. Consort Yi, His Majesty didn't summon you. Besides, this humble servant dares not offend you, I'd hate to sully your eyes. Why not seek the prince yourself for a pass to enter? Yi Rongyu flushed crimson at the barb, yet refused to relent. Having watched the spectacle long enough, I spoke, Eunuch, if Consort Yi wishes to accompany us, let her come. Very well, Your Highness, please settle in. We shall depart immediately. Inside the carriage, Yi Rongyu bit her lip, her hands clenched tightly around a handkerchief, not uttering a word. Only after we entered the palace did Lu Mingxiu appear, waiting there. The moment he saw the sedan chair arrive, he spoke first. You've endured much. Good news awaits today. Come with me to see His Majesty. At his voice, Yi Rongyu leapt from the carriage before me, grasping Lu Mingxiu's arm. Your Highness, her sweet voice met only his swift withdrawal. Yi Rongyu nearly became the first person to tumble at the palace gates. He frowned, his eyes brimming with utter disdain. Why are you here? Where is the princess consort? Your Highness, I'm right here. Only after watching Yi Rongyu's humiliation to my satisfaction did I leisurely step out of the carriage. Lu Mingxiu helped me down and we boarded the same sedan chair. I could sense Yi Rongyu's resentful gaze on my back. But no matter how unwilling she was, she would eventually have to face reality. Inside the Tai Chi Hall, we awaited the Emperor's arrival. Before a cup of tea could be finished, accompanied by a cough, the Emperor approached at a slow pace. His steps were unsteady, and he appeared far more haggard than the last time I had seen him. His complexion alone signaled something was terribly wrong. I sighed inwardly. Whether imperial nobility or common folk, none could escape illness and death. The Emperor paused upon seeing Yi Rongyu present, then broke into a smile. Since everyone is here, I shall announce it together. Mingxiu, your imperial brother has completed what he could. The rest rests upon you now. Cough cough. Lu Mingxiu knelt, and we all knelt with him. The Emperor caught his breath and continued, Lu Mingxiu, heed this command, tomorrow, I shall abdicate in your favor. You must shoulder the weighty responsibility of safeguarding the realm, serving the people and the nation. You must not neglect state affairs or bring ruin to our ancestors' legacy. Furthermore, Lady Yi Liangchan, of the Yi clan, is benevolent and virtuous, respectful and capable. She is truly a model among women and worthy of the imperial consort's position. Lu Mingxiu bowed his head and declared solemnly, I humbly obey your Majesty's decree. Your humble servant shall not betray this trust. I will govern diligently and work hand in hand with my wife, Lady Yi, to administer the realm. I clenched my fists. The goal was finally achieved. Yet joy was not shared by all. Only upon returning to the mansion did Yi Rongyu, who had held back for so long, finally erupt. Your Highness! I am the one who saved your life. You yourself said you would never forget my kindness and repay me. She is nothing but an impostor who exploited this to deceive you, wasting your affection. And how could a concubine's daughter ever become empress? Especially when she has been unfaithful with that man surnamed Sure. She is utterly unfit for the throne. Hearing this, it all clicked for me. So Yi Rongyu's enigmatic confidence all along stemmed from Lu Mingxiu's hints. Lu Mingxiu watched the raging Yi Rongyu expressionlessly and asked, "So what do you suggest? That you become empress, then have the princess consort die, or divorce her? You're quite confident, aren't you? But have you considered whether you're even worthy? Yi Rongyu, I took you as a secondary consort for your value. You were a means to easily access Yi Zhongru's influence. Now that he's served his purpose and been dealt with by this prince, you too have become useless." Yi Rongyu froze in place, muttering impossible under her breath. But Lu Mingxiu didn't let her off. Akan became the princess consort, destined to be empress, because she's smarter and more useful than you. She captured this prince's attention. She holds a place in my heart. Ultimately, whom I love has nothing to do with you. Lu Mingxiu left, leaving Yi Rongyu frozen in place. I wasn't so kind either. I leaned close and whispered the entire truth into her ear. My dear sister, did you know? Your child was never meant to be born. That bowl after bowl of blood-red bird's nest contained medicine prepared by the one you cherished. He intended to use this child to eliminate your beloved father. I could clearly see the bloodshot veins creeping across Yi Rongyu's eyes. Her entire being shattered into pieces. Live well, then. There's suffering ahead for you to savor. I patted her shoulder and hummed a tune as I walked away. Behind me came Yi Rongyu's shattering wail. The next day, in the imperial court, the emperor, clad in ceremonial robes, announced his decree. Our dynasty has endured 100 years, with each successive ruler achieving merit. Yet Emperor Hui, through his debauchery, nearly brought the court to ruin. Since ascending the throne, though I have achieved no great feats, I consider myself blameless. I have rescued the crumbling imperial house and restored order to most of the court. Yet fate is predetermined, and I lack the strength to bear the weight of the realm. Fortunately, my younger brother Mingxiu possesses the divine grace bestowed by heaven and is fit for this heavy responsibility. I willingly abdicate the throne. From this day forth, Mingxiu shall reign as emperor, with the Yi clan as empress. Do any of you have objections? We, your subjects, have no objections. We humbly welcome your majesty and her majesty the empress. Standing upon the imperial steps, I received the homage of all officials. This sensation was unprecedentedly exhilarating. It was indeed as Yi Rongyu had said, I was now the heaven-mandated daughter, second only to the emperor and above all others. As for Yi Rongyu, Lu Mingxiu despised her utterly. How could he possibly grant her the title of consort? I stepped forward to take charge of the matter. There was no other way. I tried to persuade His Majesty, but he refused to listen. He wouldn't grant you any status, wouldn't even see you once. I had no choice but to take matters into my own hands and deal with you personally. I flashed a smile at Yi Rongyu, bound to the bed. You've slandered me with that adultery label countless times. Now it's your turn to taste it. Payback's a dish best served cold. Enjoy, sis. I forced the potent aphrodisiac down Yi Rongyu's throat, repaying her for all the torment she had inflicted upon me in my past life. Yet I retained a shred of mercy. Instead of feeding her to the dogs, I cast her into the graveyard, allowing her family to reunite. Only after settling everything did I feel a weight lift from my shoulders. I didn't return to the palace but went to a private residence instead. From afar, I watched Mother surrounded by several children. They played and frolicked while she looked on. Though Mother wasn't fully recovered yet, she could grasp some matters clearly now. Only then did I feel at ease to return to the palace. One day, news arrived at the imperial residence. Emperor Wen, Lu Mingyi, had passed away. I clutched my stomach and sighed deeply. The entire nation mourned, and the palace was shrouded in mourning. After eating vegetarian meals for several days, I fainted. When I awoke, Lu Mingxiu embraced me excitedly. Wonderful, Akan. All this time spent recuperating has finally paid off. The imperial physician had detected a pregnancy pulse. I was with child. The arrival of the child filled Lu Mingxiu with immense joy. As this was our first child, we were both extremely cautious. His pent-up desires and aggression could only be vented at the martial arts grounds. Only after the national mourning period ended did the first imperial selection truly commence. Just as Emperor Wen had said, I was a competent empress. I brought beauties of every type, slender as swallows, plump as rings, into the harem. Lu Mingxiu would visit me tenderly after venting elsewhere, never lingering long with others. It was as if he had truly become a devoted man. The rivalries among the consorts rarely reached me, as long as they didn't involve bloodshed or extreme cruelty. Lu Mingxiu decreed that any who dared to trouble the empress would be executed immediately. With peace of mind, I gave birth to my child, Shower. Despite the agony of childbirth, I reached out to caress this child who belonged to me. With Shower's birth, I could finally begin my plan. Shower was named Crown Prince the moment he was born. The arrival of the legitimate firstborn signaled the harem could begin bearing heirs. Within half a year, 2 consorts conceived in succession. I elevated their ranks according to protocol, treating them all equally. I had no interest in harming the children, expanding the family line was always beneficial. My virtue earned praise throughout the harem and the court. Lu Mingxiu marveled at my benevolence, though he would occasionally grow vexed. He'd grumble about why I didn't assert myself more to keep him by my side, jealous on his behalf. Whenever this happened, I'd take the fish soup I'd prepared myself and press it into his hands. Your Majesty, I am the Empress. I was entrusted with high hopes by my imperial brother and personally appointed by your Majesty. If I were not virtuous and kind, would that not reflect poorly on your Majesty's judgment? Besides, each time your Majesty visits, I prepare a different dish and wash your Majesty's hands. Is that not proof enough of my sincerity? Lu Mingxiu could only beg for mercy. I often urged him to spread his favor evenly, and soon more consorts in the harem became pregnant. Shower gained brothers and sisters. As he grew older, unlike the other princes who were restless, he matured into a gentle and refined gentleman. He preferred staying by my side, reading and studying political treatises. He never complained of fatigue during lessons with the Grand Tutor. Court officials all agreed Shower showed the greatest promise, capable of mastering his own emotions and desires, and even keeping the other mischievous princes in check. Lu Mingxiu was deeply pleased. His sons should emulate Shower's literary and martial prowess, rising above all others. Thanks to my influence, the harem remained largely tranquil. The consorts exchanged barbed remarks at most, never coveting Shower's position. The other princes all regarded Shower as their elder. Lu Mingxiu delighted in the state of affairs, often taking my hand and sighing with emotion. Thank goodness for you. My judgment was sound. You are worthy of my heart's devotion. I playfully slapped his hand and shot him a sidelong glance. Your Majesty, you have no shame. We're an old married couple, yet you still say such things. He chased after me, leading me back from the city walls to the imperial chambers. Court officials marveled at the deep affection between us, the emperor and empress. Yet the moon waxes and wanes, and fortune shifts in an instant. In the year Shower turned 14, Lu Mingxiu fell ill. The imperial physicians say it stems from hidden wounds sustained during your Majesty's years of warfare, compounded by your tireless governance. A sudden fever triggered their full-blown eruption. I tucked the quilt's edge under my arm and patted Lu Mingxiu's hand. Rest assured, Your Majesty. The physicians will surely cure you. Yet we both knew those long-buried wounds were the deadliest. Lu Mingxiu forced a smile and summoned Shower. While your father still has strength, you shall formally assume the reins of government from tomorrow. Should you encounter difficulties, consult the ministers or your father. Shower's eyes reddened, and he nodded. Yet before long, Lu Mingxiu's condition took a sudden turn for the worse. Fortunately, Shower had been attending court with him for some time, ensuring the government remained stable and orderly. The court needn't worry. Shower was trained by your Majesty, they all respect him. I've enlisted the help of the other princes who can assist, and as for the ministers, each is a capable official, none harboring treasonous thoughts. Every few days, I would summarize the court's current state for Lu Mingxiu, and Shower would join us to discuss the day's affairs. It wasn't until Lu Mingxiu was completely reassured that he allowed Shower to focus solely on governing affairs. I know you have filial devotion, but your health is paramount. You must not end up like your uncle, understand? Shower accepted the order, visiting only every few days. Within the Tai hall, it was still I who attended to him. They say that before death, memories replay like a kaleidoscope in one's mind. Whenever Lu Mingxiu regained consciousness, he would endlessly revisit the past with me. He said, "Empress, I have wronged you in the past. I exploited you too much and never truly trusted you." He said, "Empress, I genuinely cherish you." He said, "Empress, if only our first meeting had been free of ulterior motives." He said, "Empress, please forgive me." After feeding him the last spoonful of medicine, I set down the bowl. "No. Lu Mingxiu, I know you remember your past life. Though you've been reborn, the torment and suffering you endured cannot be erased by a single rebirth. Your presence here is unforgivable." From a certain day onward, Lu Mingxiu's gaze toward me changed. It held joy, tension, and deep contemplation. Through scattered hints, I began to suspect. What confirmed Lu Mingxiu's past life memories was the day he gazed at the sleeping Shower, his eyes filled with regret and tenderness. "My first child, I've finally seen you." He coughed it out urgently, a bitter smile curling his lips. "But I truly loved you. In my past life and this one, you were the only one in my heart." I responded to this sentiment with a direct scoff. "Your affection is worthless to me. I have no need for it." Lu Mingxiu reached for my hand, but I dodged him. "As for Shower, he isn't that child. That child is dead and gone, never to return. After rebirth, I swore an oath, I would avenge my mother, myself, and that child. Now, you are the last enemy left. You should die too." From the moment Shower was born, I personally added a small dose of poison to his broth. Over the decades, it seeped deep into his bones, yet physicians could only diagnose it as a mysterious illness flaring up. The medicine I fed him just now contained the final, largest dose. Lu Mingxiu gradually felt the pain, but no one remained guarding the door. I had recalled all the guards. "Empress, you are too ruthless." I accepted the accusation with a smile. "Lu Mingxiu, do you know why I sent you to the harem? It wasn't because I sought to be a virtuous and wise empress for the sake of my reputation. Even pig farmers in the countryside keep a stud boar specifically for breeding with other sows. You were that stud boar." I tilted my head, relishing Lu Mingxiu's flushed, fury-stricken expression. "How could you be so cruel?" He cursed incessantly, and I absorbed every word. After a moment's thought, I decided to administer an even harsher blow. "Thank you for the compliment. As a reward, I'll share a secret with you. Shower isn't your child. He's my brother's." The hammer blow left Lu Mingxiu thrashing like a fish on a cutting board, struggling futilely. "Yi Liangchan. You. Venomous bitch, whore." Before he could finish cursing, Lu Mingxiu was done for. He died with hatred in his eyes, his gaze frozen in hatred. "Oh dear, he's gone." I shook my head regretfully and turned to leave. I had intended to tell Lu Mingxiu that my original plan was to approach Lu Mingyi directly, strike a deal with him, and become his consort or empress. Alas, Lu Mingyi's health wouldn't last more than a few years. So I could only share intimate moments with him, conceiving a child through his seed. Traces of our passion lingered in the study, the master bedroom, and many other corners of the mansion. Those were the most blissful moments of intimacy I'd ever known in both my lifetimes. As emperor, how could Lu Mingyi willingly relinquish his throne? Yet his failing health and military power no longer matched Lu Mingxiu's. He had no choice but to prioritize the empire and abandon his claim. My arrival reignited his hope. He might be weak, but his child could rise. I bore his heir, and he secured my position as empress. This ensured the child would be the legitimate firstborn. Provided his aptitude was sound, the throne would be his. Shower did not disappoint. He excelled in every endeavor, inheriting Lu Mingyi's temperament and possessing a robust constitution. Lu Mingxiu personally tutored him for several years, imparting martial arts skills far superior to those of the regular instructors. "Compose yourself, you can barely contain that smile." At the doorway, Sherming noticed me emerging inside as he passed by, offering a helpless reminder. I quickly pulled my lips into a frown, adopting a sorrowful expression. His Majesty has passed away. The nation plunged once more into mourning. Shower's capabilities during this period were witnessed by all the ministers. With Sherming's backing, Shower ascended the throne smoothly. I became Empress Dowager, quietly residing in the inner palace to keep my mother company. Shower would come to pay his morning and evening respects. Finding him bothersome, I told him to focus on his state affairs and stop competing with me for Mother's attention. After over a decade of treatment, Mother's lucid moments grew more frequent. I still remember the first time she recognized me. She showed no surprise at my becoming Empress, but instead stroked my head with her aged hand. My little Choner has grown so tall. These years must have been hard for you. All the pain I'd deliberately ignored surged back at once. I swallowed every bitter tear, my throat tightening as words failed me. Mother and daughter share a bond, she understood immediately. She embraced me just as she did when I was little, when I'd run to her in distress. She'd gently pat my back and soothe me. Good little Choner, Mother is here. And